welcome back to Umineko Chapter 3. We're sitting at the family conference post-first dinner. It's been revealed that Rosa apparently killed Beatrice, which is kind of strange, as she says she killed her a long time ago and she shouldn't be coming back. With some of the new revelations we've learned, it sort of makes sense. We'll see where it's going. After all, we have this really weird, imprisonment scenario, kind of rapey imprisonment scenario where Kinzo traps Beatrice on his hidden private island mansion, and then she kills herself to try and escape, and then depending on whether or not you believe in magic, either he trapped her soul and put her in the body of a homunculus that looks like Beatrice, but she lost all her memories, or he's grooming his rape baby with Beatrice to be his next Beatrice, and it's not looking a lot better, honestly. It's pretty awkward either way, and I'm not sure if she's talking about the old version of Beatrice or the new one, who also might be dead. I guess we're gonna have to just find out. No matter which way you look at it, it's a little bit messed up. And let's just get forward and see which Beatrice she's talking about, as this is kind of new information to this arc. We're in Arc 3, and we really haven't seen that before. The men wanted to hurry her into talking faster, but Kyrie intervened. If something like that really happened, it would have been a terrible experience that Rosa wouldn't want to remember. And if you're thinking, did we start in the middle of a scene? Hell no. There was like 20 minutes of discussion, of meta discussion, and we just swapped back to this. This is actually where the scene kind of resumes from after like an hour and a half a segue into other stuff. After taking several deep breaths with her hand over her chest, it seemed she had more or less resolved herself to talk. All these people were thinking that Beatrice was like their father's mistress or something, and not some prisoner on the island. Then again, none of them have explored this island. They just know it's an island that is apparently mostly uninhabited and owned entirely by their family. How old was I then, I wonder? Middle school, probably? I don't remember well. Anyway, I think I was about that age. Which means around 20 years ago? Yep. Back then, my grades weren't very good. Mother was always angry at me. Well, someone should have sympathy for Jessica, whose grades also suck. Unfortunately, you're not her mother. I tried to do my best in my own way. But I couldn't match up to Mother's expectations at all. Mother was always very strict with Rosa. I sympathized with her at the time. Kraus saying that when we have Rosa hating Kraus most of all, because he's a massive asshole to her. She is very curious. Like, I sympathized with her. Rosa's perspective, Kraus is a fucking monster, and he bullies her all the time through her childhood, and she hates him. Alright. You say that even though you're always talking behind her back? Kraus looks like an ass. Dude, all of the siblings are assholes. I'm not sure that Rosa is much better, but at least we can confidently say she's been bullied the most. So if she hates them, she has a fairly good excuse. I don't know what Kraus's excuse is. He's just an asshole, right? Did you give it a rest, Ava? And then? Note that Hideyoshi is not related to any of these people by blood. He married into this family, so if you're like, this guy seems like less of an asshole, it's because he's not part of the family. He married Ava. Give it a rest, Ava. And then, where did you meet Beatrice, Rosa? Hideyoshi-san, you mustn't rush her now. Okay, Rosa.
楽に話して。
Tell us at your own pace. Same with Kyrie, right? You can immediately tell because she's not an asshole. You're like, I didn't get asshole vibes from this person. How is their last name is Shiramiya? Ah, marriage.
あり
Marriage.
がとう。
Thank you.
あれはお母様に特にひどく叱られた日よ。
Thank you. It was a day I'd been harshly scolded by mother. So like every day. Even though my tutor had promised to keep it a secret, apparently they told mother all about how I complained. Mother scolded me brutally, saying my name was a disgrace to the Ashiramiya family. Of course, I was doing the best I could, but I had none of Kraus Nissan's dignity. I couldn't get excellent grades like Eva Nissan, and I had no leadership abilities like Rudolf Nissan. I never stood out, didn't excel at anything in particular. And I found myself asking why I'd even been born into the Ashiramiya family. I began questioning more and more why I'd even been born at all. This is what happened on the day I experienced my mind going blank for the first time. For the first time in my life, I realized in addition to facing or surrendering to my problems, I had the third choice of running away. Though I say run away, there was no way I could have left Rockinjima and gone somewhere else. Anyway, I wanted to run away from the mansion and my own self at the time. In a way, it was sort of like a kid running from home, or maybe a passive sort of suicide.
いなくなりたか
Death
った。
by exposure in a forest? That's gonna be a tough one. It's not even that big an island. You can probably just walk in a circle around the island to find your way home. I wanted to
あるい
disappear.
はいなくなることによって親を心配させたい
Or
とい
maybe
う
it was that
子供なりの
childlike
反抗
form
だ
of
ったのかも。
resistance, where I tried to make my parents worry by disappearing.
私は森の遥か奥に行けば後ろ宮の家から逃れられる。
Okay. I childishly thought if I went to the center of the forest and escaped from the Ashiramiya
ある
family
い
home,
は迷子になって心配させることで
maybe became
仕返
lost,
しができる
I'd make them worry and teach them
子
a
供ながらに
lesson.
思ったの。
Okay, there's the plan.
それで行ってはいけないと言われていた
So
の
you
に
went into the forest, you were told never to enter?
ええ
Yes.
浜辺へ出てから海に沿うように
After reaching the beach, I followed alongside the
特に
ocean.
理由があったわけじゃないけれど
I didn't have any particular reason. Okay, so she went to the beach, towards the dock. So she goes from the house towards the docks, then travels in one of the directions along the beach. Okay. I followed alongside the ocean. I didn't have any particular
島を
reason.
ぐるりと回ればその反対側には誰も知らない場所があって
But I felt like if I went to the opposite side of the island, there might be a place that no one knew about.
私だけの隠れ家になるような気がしたの。
A hidden place just for me, perhaps.
浜辺からぐるっとってのは無理だな。
If you go around by the beach, that's
途
impossible.
中で崖になっちまうだろう。
It becomes a cliff part way,
あ
right?
んなとこ通れるわけがねえぜ。
There's no way you could pass that way.
もちろんよ。
Of
だか
course.
ら通れる方へ通れる方へとにかく
So I kept going wherever I could, which kept taking me deeper and deeper inland.
道なんかないひどい森だったけどあの
It's a
時の
horrible
私
forest.
には
There's no path, but that was comforting to me then. There are no natural forest paths because this is an island, right? Typically, paths are made by animals or people walking through them periodically. If there are no animals traversing the forest, then there's less likely to be paths.
それほどの険しい森を抜けたならその分
If I
後
could
ろ
make
宮
it
家から
through
逃れられるって
such a dangerous forest, then I'd be that much further away from the Ishiromiya family.
情けないわね。
How shameful.
成績で叱られたならその分努力すればいいのに。
If you're scolded because of your grades, all you have to do is work harder. Sure.
それを言ってはいいか
Sure.
ね。
Yeah, that works, right? You mustn't say that.
その代わり、ローザにはデザイナーとしての才能があったじゃない
Doesn't
か。
Rosa have her talent as a designer instead? Literally speaking, he was covering for Rosa, but everyone knew Rosa's company hadn't been profitable. Oof.
よせよ。
Quite a...
今は嫌味を言ってる場合
It's
じゃ
no
ねえ
time
ぜ
for sarcasm.
そして偶然たどり着いちまったんだな。
So, you managed to end up there by
ベア
coincidence
トリーチェの
at
隠し
Beatrice's
屋敷。
hidden mansion. Rosa nodded weakly.
どのくらい歩いたんや
How far did you walk?
地図で場所が示せる
Did
ん
you
か
show it to us on a map?
夏井さん この島の地図はあるかいな。
Do you have a map of this island?
いえ、今ここにはあり
There
ませ
isn't
ん
one.
が。
There isn't one here now.
無理よ。
It wouldn't help.
適当に歩いただけだもの。
I was walking randomly. Yeah, it'd be pretty hard to.
地図を見せ
You're
られたっ
walking
て
in the
わからない
you're walking in a forest. Do you think someone knows exactly where it is unless they've done it several times? Yeah, even if you gave me a map, I wouldn't have a clue.
それにあれから
It's been
20
20
年
years.
経ってる。
Yeah, Kirei's voice actor.
多分
Kirei's
森へ
voice
行っても
actor. She's actually half the characters are fairly well known VAs. Not like I don't think we have anyone who's like super mega famous. We have a bunch of solid Japanese voice actors here. 20 years passed since then. I probably couldn't reach it again, even if I went into the forest. Yeah, it's been 20 years. Good luck. Several people let out dejected sighs. I mean, you think you're gonna walk out in the middle of a typhoon and go find a hidden mansion? That's an unknown number of hours walk away. It was vividly clear that in their haste, they thought some hint related to the witch's epitaph, or maybe even the gold itself, might be resting there. It might have been.
六軒島はこの屋敷の周りが整地されているだけに過ぎね
On Rockinjima, only the land around the mansion is ready to be developed
え。
on.
完全に未開で全頭測量は相当の手間がかかるだろうな。
The rest is completely uncultivated, and it'd probably take a lot of work to survey the entire island.
でも確かに存在すると分かっただけでも収穫よ。
But just knowing that it actually exists is helpful.
お金はかかるだろうけど、例えば航空写真の会社に調査を頼むと
It would
か、
take some money, but if we enlisted an aerial photography company to
このお屋
investigate,
敷を建設した業者に当時のことを聞くとか、
or ask the businessman who constructed this mansion about what happened at the
調べる
time,
方法はあるかもしれないわね。
we'd probably find a way to search for it.
そう
That's
ね。
true.
あるかないかもわからないものを探すよりは、まだ方法があるはずよ。
At least we have more options now, as opposed to when we weren't sure it existed.
早速調べる価値があるだ
It's
ろう。
worth investigating right away.
その調査は兄弟合同でやるわよ。
The siblings will do that investigation together. Alright, they don't want someone to find the gold without them.
兄さん一人ではさせないわ。
You won't leave it here on your own, Nissan. Yeah, because he'll steal more money. It wasn't yet certain that the gold was hidden in the secret mansion, but the sparks seem to have started flying between Kraus and Ava already.
兄貴たち、今はよせよ。
Give it a rest for now, you two? I don't know if that's a bad idea.
続きを話してくれ。
Rosa, continue. Yeah. Yep, Taiga for Ava. Iris feels VA. Yep. We also have Carmilla's voice actor. Lots of choices. Lots of choices. Romani and Kido. Yep. Blindly, randomly, I kept running on and on. Suddenly I came across something I thought was an animal trail. I was tired and I had no idea how far I'd walked, so at the time I naturally took the easiest path. As I did, suddenly before my eyes a tall fence appeared. A fence wonderfully adorned in a Gothic style. For an instant I thought I'd gotten turned around and returned to the original mansion. Of course there were fences around the mansion to stop us from entering the forest, but this fence was decorated differently, and moreover, it was very tall. It probably reached a full 2 stories up, so this is a 16-foot tall fence. Holy shit, that is a huge fence. It was covered with ivy and created a mysterious, solemn atmosphere. At the time, I believed in the legend of the Witch of the Forest, Beatrice. I had been told that she was frightening. I've been told some of the servants told me she'd sometimes help you if you respected her. Alright. Now do it again in metric. Like 6 meters? Since I had little confidence in those days, I believed the only way I could be saved was by receiving her help. That's why I thought what I did. I believed this was the fence of the mansion belonging to Beatrice, Witch of the Forest. I thought if I could meet with Beatrice, she'd definitely save me, so I decided to try going in. But the fence was tall, and it didn't look like I'd be able to go over it. So I chose to walk around. I thought if I did, I'd eventually reach a gate. It wasn't that easy, though. The fence had an incredible length to match its incredible height, and no matter how far I went, I didn't reach a corner. It might have encircled a massive area, or maybe I just had that impression because my child's legs made it difficult to walk in the forest. Anyway, I couldn't find a gate for a while. I started feeling sad as though the witch had rejected me. As I did, I eventually came upon a large tree whose twisted root had bent the fence. It might get my clothes dirty, but if I crawled, it looked like I'd be able to sneak in. Oh, very nice, very nice.
そこが隠し屋敷だった。
And there you found the hidden mansion?
あれが私たちの言う隠し屋敷なのかはわからない。
I don't know if it was the mansion we'd been talking
で
about.
も
Still, at the very
少な
least,
くとも
it's not a
私
place
たち
we
の
know.
知る場所ではなかったわ。
So there is a second house on there's a second house on this island, hidden somewhere. It wasn't as though I came out into a garden as soon as I passed the fence. I had to continue through a lot more uncultivated forest after that. You gotta really be looking for this fucking mansion, man. That seems like a lot of work. As I did, the forest suddenly opened up, and what appeared there was an unbelievably fantastical scene. To think on Rockinjima, where I thought only we lived, there could be such a wonderful mansion hidden away. A beautiful flower garden spanned the front of the mansion. Who's maintaining all this, by the way? I have questions. This grass is perfectly maintained, so is that hedge right by the wall. No way Kinzo's doing this. Who's maintaining this? It was a flower garden of a completely different design from the rose garden we knew so well. They had a dedicated flower garden spanning the front of the mansion that requires, like, continuous upkeep. How many Umineko tiles are there? Umineko is a long-ass visual novel that's, like, spans 2 major parts. There are also, like, some side stories. I believe there's at least 1 side story that you can also purchase. But yes, it's for the most part, it's just 1 long novel. Yep. So it was a very lovely flower garden. Of course, the mansion was also wonderful. It was a couple sizes smaller than ours, but it was still elegant and adorable at the same time. And then I saw her figure. I saw her sitting in a garden chair positioned to give a view of the flower garden, wearing an elegant dress. It was that black dress embroidered in gold we would later know from the portrait. I hadn't seen an elegant dress like this except in fairy tales and on the stage of musicals. For a person to be wearing it as their normal clothes, that in and of itself seemed quite fantastical. And that mysterious scene was enough to make me lose my sense of reality. If someone told me then that this was a dream, I would have nodded obediently and waited to wake up in my bed. I had forgotten to hide myself in my shock, so she eventually spotted me. At first her expression was quite listless, but when she noticed me, her eyes opened very wide, and it was only natural, considering a guest she didn't know had suddenly appeared. I lowered my head, automatically planning to greet her and apologize for entering without her permission.
そなたは誰か?
Who are you? Dude, she's not surprised. She doesn't seem surprised or excited. This seems more like an annoyed Beatrice.
新しい庭師なのか?
And who are you, the new gardener? Those were the first words she said to me. I grew slightly calmer because I realized we could talk to each other, and I hadn't been turned into a frog just by meeting her eyes like a terrifying witch in a fairy tale.
ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry.
勝手にお庭に立ち入って。すみません。
I shouldn't have entered the garden without permission.
そなたは誰
Who
か?
are you?
名乗るがよい。
Name yourself.
後ろ宮ローザと言います。
後ろ宮。
Shiromiya.
おお、金蔵の一族の人間なのか?
One of Kinzo's family?
え?
Huh? Yes, yes.
はい。金蔵の娘です。
I'm Kinzo's daughter. Alright.
こんにち
Good
は。
afternoon. I was a little surprised. After all, Father was a great man, feared by everyone, and yet she spoke of him without using honorifics. So I was immediately terrified of her. After all, if she could refer to my fearsome father that way, she must be a witch with incredible power. Yep, this is where Rosa meets Beatrice and knows that she's a real person, at least at some point. After staring at me curiously, she beckoned me to come over. Frightened as I was, I obeyed. After all, I thought she might really turn me into a frog. The closer I got, the stronger that fear became. After all, as I keep saying over and over, the woman in her dress, the flower garden, the mansion. The whole picture was so fantastical and beautiful, it seemed separate from reality. It probably wouldn't have surprised me at all to learn she really was a witch. And I was really lucky. She hadn't turned me into a frog. As I awkwardly stood there, stock still, she motioned to an open chair and urged me to sit down.
座るがよい。
Have a seat. Oh, look, an action. A nice shot of Beatrice where she's not being a huge bitch. Alright. Have a seat? Enjoy some tea?
初めて訪れた者を庭へ招き、語らうのがわらわの唯一の楽しみよ。
Welcoming and speaking to those who visit this garden for the first time is my sole pleasure.
他に何の楽しみ
Of
も
course, I
ない
have no pleasures other than that. As she said this, she let an unhappy smile show for just an instant. Because I was full of a strange mix of tension and excitement, I rudely asked her a question all of a
あ
sudden.
の、森の魔女
Are you the witch of the
ベア
forest?
トリーチェですか？
Beatrice?
いかにも
Indeed.
わらわがベアトリーチェである。
I am Beatrice, and that's how she responds? Huh, okay.
やはりな。
As I
ベアト
thought,
リーチェは実在したんだ。
Beatrice actually existed.
その姿はまさに肖像画
Did she
の
really look like the portrait?
ええ、
Yes,
まさにあの肖像画の通りよ。
just like the portrait.
お父さんの想像の中の魔女じゃなかったんやな。
She wasn't just a witch from father's imagination. She does exist, or did. And she does look kind of cute.
あなたは彼女と何を話したの？
What did you talk with her about? And we can look at her picture anytime we want to. It just takes a minute. See? Beatrice. Anytime. The endless witch Beatrice. What did we talk to her about?
彼女はお茶を入れながら私のことをいろいろと聞いたわ。
As she prepared tea, she asked me all kinds of things about myself.
森を抜けてやってきたことを
First, she was
驚かれ
surprised
た
I came through the forest.
彼女は柵の外には危険な狼がたくさんいると信じ
It
ていたみ
seems
たい
she
だ。
believed many dangerous wolves lived outside the fence. How would that be possible? They live on an island. Wolves can't just teleport there.
だから私が森を抜けてたどり着いたと言ったら、
When I told her I'd come through the forest to reach this place, she was shocked.
どうやって狼から逃れたのか、ビスケ
She
ッ
asked
トを
how
渡
I
して許
managed
して
to
もらっ
escape
た
from
の
the
か、
wolves.
それとも魔法の街灯をか
Did
ぶ
I
っ
give them a
て
biscuit and they let me go, perhaps?
なんて感じのことを言ってたっけ。
Did I cover myself in a magical cloak? That kind of thing.
そりゃ確かに魔女っぽいよ
Certainly
な。
sounds like a witch.
面白いお人や。
An interesting person.
あなた黙って。
Quiet,
ずい
dear.
ぶん昔だ
This
けど
goes way back.
お父様は森には狼が住んでいるから近寄ってはならないって
Didn't father threaten us saying we
私たちを脅さなかった。
should never get near the forest because of the wolves that live there? Dude, you live on a tiny island. There's not enough. If you don't see any game, there's probably not enough to support the wolves. A population of wolves.
ああそんなことも
And
あ
you'd
った
hear them.
な
The island's tiny. In fact, if wolves or coyotes are an active problem, your father probably has a gun to deal with them. Like there should absolutely be someone with a gun, or a gun somewhere to deal with them fucking attacking people, or messing stuff up. Alright, just like coyotes. We already saw the gun. True, he does have a gun. But they'd be familiar with them because he'd have it in the event they were messing with anything they had going on, like their gardens. Their gardens are like some storage shed or some shit. Or just getting too close to the grounds. They'd probably be aware of the wolves, is what I'm saying, if wolves were a real problem. He did say something of the sort.
バカらしいね
Yeah, they ain't no problem no more. Yeah, maybe. He did say something of the sort.
日本
Ridiculous.
の狼はとっくの昔に絶滅しているというのに
Even though Japanese wolves went extinct long ago, I guess there's also that.
まさに子供騙しだな
Truly a trick to fool children.
記憶にねえな。
I don't remember that. Is Kinzo more American than Danny by owning a gun? I mean, he did illegally acquire his gun from the Americans. I don't
そん
remember
な
that.
話。 親父に聞かされたっけ？
Did Dad really tell us something like
森
that?
には魔女だろ？
It was the Witch of the Forest, right?
狼なんて話聞いたことないぜ。
I don't think I've ever heard about wolves.
あんたがまだ小学校だった頃よ。
This was when you were in elementary school.
覚えてない？
Don't you remember?
そしたらあんた、むしろ狼を撫でてみたいなんて言い出すもんだから。
You're American, but you don't own a gun, you own swords. Funnily enough, easier to open carry a gun than an actual sword. Since you can open carry guns in a lot of states, right? Or under certain conditions in several more states. But actually carrying around a real sword would be kind of hard. Kind of hard. It's silly, isn't it? A lot harder to kill a lot of people with a sword than a gun. I mean, you don't run out of ammo. But, But, I mean, all someone has to do is just walk away from you very quickly. And they're good. Back then, you said you thought it'd be cool to try petting the wolves. Oh?
お父様はすぐに狼の話を引っ込めて、魔女の話に切り替えたのよ。
Father immediately gave up the wolf story and changed it to the story about the witch.
もう、その嘘っぽいことと言ったら。
Seriously? What transparent lies. What transparent lies they were.
当時のルドルフには狼よりも魔女の話の方がてきめんだったね。
At the time, the witch story had a much more immediate effect on you, Rudolph, than the
よ
wolves.
く覚えているよ。
I remember it well.
私の背中にしがみついた夜があったことを。
Don't you remember
覚
those
えている
nights when you clung to my back?
ルドルフさんにもそんな可愛らしい時代があっ
I
たの
see.
ね。
So even Rudolph's son used to be that cute.
うるせえな。
Shut
子供の頃の話だぜ。
I was just a kid.
まあ
Making
とにか
excuses for
く
yourself. Well, at any
ベ
rate.
アトリーチェを閉じ込めていたのがお父さんなら、同じ狼の話をするのは道理ね。
If father's the one who shut up Beatrice in there, it makes sense he'd use the same story about
彼にと
wolves.
って六軒島の広大な森は、後宮家と愛人の屋敷という、
To him, the vast forest of Rock and Jima was a wall that shouldn't be crossed, dividing his two
相
incompatible
入れない
worlds.
二つの異世界を分断する、越えてはならない壁だったのだから。
The Ashiramiya family and his mistress's mansion.
柵の高さを考えると、どうやら親父殿は庭ごと丸々を座敷牢にしたようだな。
Considering the height of that fence, it does sound as though father turned the whole area, garden and all, into a giant jail
さ
cell.
ながら二つの世界を分ける国境も同然だったのだろう。
Like a border dividing his two separate worlds.
狼はともかく、野犬の類でもいたのではありませんか？
Wolves aside, could there have been some breed of stray dogs there?
そのための柵だったかもしれません。
Perhaps the fence was there to protect against those?
六軒島に狼も野犬もいないわ。
There are no wolves or stray dogs on Rock
そ
and
の
Jima.
柵は、兄さんやキリエさんの言うように、
The fence was probably
ベアトリーチェと私たちの間の
a
国境
border
だった
between
んで
us
しょう
and
ね。
Beatrice. Makes sense. If the island's not big enough to support wolves, or like there's no way that wolves arrived on the island, like, how do wolves get to an island in the first place? There has to be... On an island, that means they either had to have swam or walked there, or they had to have been dropped off there by like a boat crash or something like that. That'd be the only way wolves get to an island. So if there's no wolves on the island at some point, there shouldn't be wolves on the island, right? I mean, in general, like most of the fauna and flora on an island is going to be plants that are typically carried there by birds. Like that's normally how stuff starts, right? Yeah, you might get insects, small critters. There's not typically a lot of large animals on islands. Unless the island is like accessible. Unless the island is accessible by like swimming, like, you know, like moose and whatever else can like swim or travel along, right? Or people can obviously make boats to travel further, but like small islands, it has to be within swimming distance for like an animal. Maybe like a bit of bad RNG sends you and a couple animals off to the island if it's like a bit further than swimming distance, but otherwise it's not really going to happen. Humans introduce new wildlife to ecosystems? Yeah, for sure. That's why I was thinking like a shipwreck or something could cause that.
しかし狼の話を素直に信じるなんてなんちゅうか純朴やな。
If she innocently believed that story about wolves, that's pretty
わ
naive.
しの想像していた魔女とは随分違う感じやで。
That's nothing like I'd expect a witch to do. You're
そ
right.
うね。それは私も感じたわ。
I sensed that
と
too.
ても尊大で、確かに魔女のイメージ通りの人だったんだけど、
She was pompous like my image of a witch, but somehow
とても
very
子供っ
childish.
ぽくて、なんていうのか、素直すぎるというか、
She was, how do I put it, way too straightforward.
世間知らずな印象を受けたわ。
It gave me the impression she didn't know anything about the world.
例えるなら、本当におとぎの国の人みたいというか、
It was as though she'd come from some fantastical fairy tale-like
本当
land.
に不思議な人
She
だ
was
っ
a
たわ
very。strange person.
それからどうしたんだ？
And what happened after that?
親父の話とかは出たのかい？
Did you talk about dad at all?
ええ、
Yes.
何日かに一度。約束されている日もあれば、突然の日もあったそうだけど、
Once every few days, usually on an arranged day, but
ふ
sometimes
らりとお
suddenly,
父様が訪れては、一緒にお茶を飲んだり、散
father
歩した
would
りしたんですっ
casually
て。
appear and they'd drink together or take a walk together or
私
something.
が訪れたその日は、たまたま彼女一
She
人だ
said
ったと言って
she
いた
just
わ。
happened to be alone the day I visited.
なるほど
I
な。
see.
まさに愛人といったと
An
ころ。
obvious mistress, you might
や
say.
れや
まあまあ
れ、いくつ年下か知らんが、親父殿もやるね。
I don't know how much younger she was, but good for father.
いかがわしい意味での交流はなかったと
We
確
can be
信してい
sure
ま
this
す。
was no indecent relationship. Oh?
バカね。男と女の多さに色気がないはずないじゃない。
There's no way a lovers meeting between a man and woman don't have some sensuality.
それでどうしたの？
What's next?
それから何の話を？
What'd you talk about after that?
私の自己紹介をしたので、
I
逆
introduced...
に彼女のことを質問したわ。
Yare yare. I'd already introduced myself, so I asked about her.
そうしたら、
When I did, the atmosphere
Kyuni
quickly grew
雰囲気
depressing.
が落ち込んでしまったの。
Ooh, that's not good. The minute she asked a question about her, it's like poof, depression.
なんていうのか、
How do I put it?
とても気だるそうな、寂
She
しそう
seemed to
な。
grow listless and lonely.
私が初めて彼女の顔を見た時に浮かべていたのと、
It was the same expression I saw on her face in the beginning. So I think the adults haven't come to the same conclusion we have because we got extra meta information from Meta Battler and Beatrice herself, as well as Ronove, who is apparently the 27th demon. And also a demon god pillar, in case anyone's wondering. He's one of that 72. Any skimpy waifus, it gives you the vibe that it does. Alas, not even a... We haven't even had a good beach episode yet. We've had people go to the beach, but no bikinis. So we got... This is all we got, man. It's all we got, okay? You got like a little bit of thigh here. You got Jessica. We did have... There will be bunnies. We did have a Toho themed costume switch though. That was kind of funny. Jessica apparently likes Toho. And yeah, mostly MILFs. Mostly. I suppose so. Seems to be the case. Yep, yeah, Jessica was cosplaying Marissa. That's probably the most well-known character. But it was like Marissa, the character from the photography ones, and I forget who else. Oh yeah, we do have the Seven Sisters of Purgatory. True. I mean, they are all same faces. But if you have a favorite face, you can go with it, okay? Yeah, the same faces. We got the same faces. That's all you get. That's all we got, though. Unless you're into some serious beefcake. Like, we got these goats here. They're jacked. You gotta be into goats. You gotta be into goats for that one, which is a little bit harder. Little bit of more of an ask. Runove is gay for Battler. That might be true. That Rosa neck scarf needs to chill. Yeah, that's a pretty intense neck scarf, right? They got those nice garter belts? They do, they do.
まあ秘密の愛人だから
The
な。
goat's thick as fuck. Yeah. Battler's also got a nice outfit. I think Battler's outfit's pretty good. It's a nice variation on like a generic suit and tie. It's got some color. It's got like some... It's clearly got some things that are like more modern than your generic like jacket. Like his blazer is actually a zipper blazer. It's not like a button blazer. My favorite's Jessica so far. Yeah, the Seven Sisters are tempting, but they're all kind of psychopaths. Battler more like Grappler. Yeah, more like Grappler. This guy is very handsy. But if you like grapplers, he's probably a grappler in the fighting game. So, and there is an Umineko fighting game. So you can get molested by Battler in real time. She was his hidden mistress after all.
好き勝手に歩かれてお袋に見つかっちまったらことだ。
If she just walked around wherever she liked, Mom might have found her. I mean, she was his
きっ
hidden
と軟
mistress.
禁に近い状態だったろう。
Yeah, you thought I was joking when I said he was handsy? There is a fighting game for this. I think he's a grappler. Yeah, one of his specials is getting very handsy with people, which is a little bit weird when most of the cast are his relatives. A little bit creepy. Mom, yeah. Alright, I bet she was practically under house arrest.
綺麗なドレスに綺麗な屋敷や庭があってもさぞや窮屈な思いをしてたんだろうぜ。
Even though she had beautiful clothes, a beautiful mansion, and a garden, she must have felt pretty
そりゃ
cramped.
苦労もあったろうさ。
I bet she had it rough. And then?
彼女はきっと何か
She
悩
was
み
definitely
も
worried about something.
それを私に話したところで
I remember
何の解
feeling
決にも
sad
ならない
myself.
私もとても悲しかったのを覚えてる。
I realized there wasn't something I could do anything about by talking to her.
私と一緒にいることさえ忘
She
れて
forgot
しまった
I
か
was
の
even
よう
there.
で遠くをぼんやり見ながら
She gazed vaguely off into the distance and was silent for a long, long time.
私はきっと
I
失
thought I
礼
must
して
have
しまっ
said
たに
something
違いな
wrong,
く謝罪の言葉すらも口にしていいような雰囲気じゃなくて
but it didn't seem to be the type of atmosphere where I could really
だ
apologize.
から私も彼
I
女
remained
が
silent
私と一
too
緒
for
に
a
いる
long,
こと
long
を
time
思い出してくれるまで
until she remembered I was there
ずっと黙って
at the
た
tag fighter. You thinking of picking up the Umineko fighter? I mean, it is an interesting idea. I was actually tossing around the idea of playing one of the Toho fighters because they look like they're really weird fucking fighters. They look really weird. But I haven't actually considered picking up this one. And then she muttered unexpectedly. Oh.
柵の向こうには
Are there really no wolves beyond the fence?
は
That's
い
right.
狼なんて動物園でも見たこ
I've
とない
never
です
seen wolves, not even in a zoo.
動物園とは何か
What's a zoo?
ああいろんな動物が飼われているところです
It's a place where they keep all kinds of
象とか
animals.
キリンと
They're
か
full of rare animals
パンダ
like
とか
elephants,
珍しい動
giraffes,
物がいっぱいいますよ
pandas, all sorts of animals.
動物園に
There aren't any
狼は
wolves
い
in
な
the
いの
zoo.
なら怖くないかもしれんな
It might not be so scary.
狼がいたとしても動物はみんな檻に入ってますから安全です
Even if there were wolves, all the animals are put in cages, so it's safe.
だから安心して見学できるんですよ
That's why you can safely look at them and learn about them. The mighty witch of the forest was apparently terrified of wolves. Does he do this to the whole cast? Yes. Yes. Battler's grab. Battler's being a molester grab. He does it to everyone. The whole cast. And you're asking the whole female cast. No, it's the whole cast. Everybody. And yes, if you missed it, he did totally go. Yeah, his first thing to do when he saw the maid that works for his family after 6 years is go to be a little handsy. The man's a menace, sort of. Sort of. He was kind of expecting to be slapped and was very confused why she wasn't slapping him. Does he swing both ways? I actually think, I think it's just he's, like, confused by the input in the game. He's like, why am I doing this? But he does it anyway or some shit. I watched a translated video of his grab dialogue. Cause if you didn't know, Battler's grab dialogue, he also comments on the shape and feel of people's chests when he grabs them. It's not just a regular grab line. So he has like specific dialogue for every character, including the male characters. Yeah, the mighty witch of the forest is apparently terrified of wolves, and I remember it looked pretty funny to me at the time. Beatrice. How am I any different? You didn't know about zoos. I explained how fun zoos could be, but it was very difficult for a person like her who had never visited one to understand. On the contrary, as I explained it to her, her expression grew increasingly dismal. She couldn't see the difference. Apparently, even though she lived in an elegant mansion that was surrounded by a high fence and seemed to lack for nothing, she couldn't see how she was any different from animals shut up in cages. Who am I? Everyone calls me Beatrice. It seems to be the name of a great witch, as you say. But that isn't me. I can't use magic. I simply have the soul of that witch sealed in my body. There was definitely something odd about her. Beyond just being cut off from the world, it seems she truly believed that magic exists. I think she talked about lots of weird things, but I don't remember the details. All I thought was that this might be a person to be pitied. She was unable to leave the mansion of her own free will, a prisoner without even realizing it. And she didn't know anything about the outside world, didn't even understand who she was. She probably vaguely realized she was to be pitied, but since she didn't know anything, she seemed incapable of recognizing her own unhappiness. Long ago when I told Nae-san that I felt sorry for a bird in a cage, she said this: "A bird that only knows about the inside of the cage doesn't long for the outside." But this wasn't a bird, she really was a person. If she'd never been outside the cage, she understood there was more to the world. So, I invited her. Do you want to try going outside the fence? There really aren't any wolves? There's none. There aren't any. You'll be safe. I want to leave. But the gate's always closed. There's a place I came in through. It's got a crack you can slip through. We go through there? There's a world outside? Speaking of Mihoyo, sudden segue. What about Mihoyo? You looking forward to the Mihoyo release? You might be able to read it now? Yeah, that's gonna be cool. I think reading Mihoyo might be fun. Alas, we got a ways to go here. We're deep. We're deep in the list of visual novels we gotta watch. There's too many VNs, and they take a long time to get through. It sounds like fun, but man, that's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while before I can get to Mihoyo. You feel that? Yeah, I feel it, right? It's like, oh my goodness, there's like this VN and this VN and this VN and this VN, and they're all like really big time sinks. You're like, I want to read them all, but I can only pick so many. Mihoyo would be a good choice, though.
きません
Here
よ。
aren't any. I'd only planned on inviting her to go on a short walk, but she kept looking over her shoulder at the mansion as though she was seriously worrying over the decision. Then I learned what she was preparing herself for.
わらわはもうここは嫌だ。
I've had enough of this place. I want to go
そして
outside.
わらわが何者で、この世
I
界
want to
は
know
ど
who
う
I
なって
am.
いて、
What's happening in this world? Is Umineko a romance? No.
わらわは何のために生まれてきたのか
No.
知り
No.
たい。
Who I am? What's happening in this world? Why was I born? We are at the start of episode 3. How many hours? We are at the start of episode 3. Currently, playtime on Steam says 77.9. The real number is probably closer to 75. You want to know who I am? What's happening in this world? Why I was born? I didn't know what her life had been like before then. It was probably something she couldn't express easily. It was harsh. She just had to say she wanted... If it was harsh, she just had to say she wanted to escape. If it was sweet, she just had to say she'd stay. For example, maybe it was like how a hot fireplace on a winter day makes the air get thicker and thicker, giving you a headache. Even though you know you shouldn't keep things the way they are, you need the courage to open the window and be tormented by the cold wind. It would be a nice touch. It would be a nice touch. But yes, no action. There are characters in romantic relationships, but I don't think it's a romance. She was starting to realize she couldn't stay there forever. She was starting to realize she had to go outside someday. But since she didn't know about the outside world, she must have needed courage to take that unspeakable step first.
この正直者め。
Oh shit, it's Dr. Pango raiding with a party of 21. Dude, what's up? Dr. Pango, how's it going, my dude? You having a good one? We're reading some Umineko. Ooh, thanks for the follow, Umbra. We're reading some Umineko, going through the backstory of the supposed witch Beatrice, who it turns out who lived in real life trapped on a hidden island. Despite that, she made her decision. Yeah, how was Goddess Rungaminiad? The fun fight. I like the introduction of actual fight mechanics in Camelot. That's one of the best things about the arc. Mordred mopped up, nice, nice. And good taste too, bringing Mordred along. Top tier choice. Yeah, if Camelot brought some fun mechanics. Again, it brings the first fights that have actual like boss specific abilities, which is nice because like prior to Camelot, none of the bosses really have anything special as a boss mechanic. They just have like their regular skills and NPs. And in Camelot, the bosses start getting boss specific abilities that are unique to the enemy. So, like people who instant NP every turn, people who have like bonus abilities and permanent buffs. It's kind of cool. Makes the game more interesting when the enemies aren't just exactly what they are and when you use them, but as a boss. So they have like, 50,000 more hit points or whatever. It's kind of cool. Push the tragic and tragic romance. This game puts the tragic and tragic romance, you say? Well, she voiced her decision to go outside something she'd probably said aloud for the first time. I hesitated for a moment. Father decided she should live here. She was like Father's beloved bird in a cage. If I just let her escape, Father might scold me harshly.
見たい。
I want to see.
何を？
See what?
動物園が見たい
I
の
want
だ
to。see a zoo. You gonna get some sleep? You've been awake for 22 and a half hours? You need to get some sleep? Dude, that's almost a full day. Get some rest, my dude. You were surprised when she finally gave me a gentle smile? Could that have been a farsightedness brought about by your decision to venture from the cage? Have a good night, my dude. Thanks so much for the raid. It was a smile so gentle I couldn't imagine it had come from that once dark face.
そなたと話すと
And when I speak with you,
知らないことばか
I
り
keep
出てく
hearing
る。
about things I don't know.
わらわは学校なるものもわか
I
ら
don't
ぬし
even know about this thing called school, nor do I know about zoos. No education. No education. But Kinzo doesn't think women should be educated, so that doesn't surprise me.
映画館も知ら
I don't know about movie
ん
theaters.
遊園地も知らん
I don't know about amusement parks. Is she even literate?
知りたいと
I feel from the bottom of my heart. I want to know about those things. Congratulations on beating FGO Dark Souls. Is that really? It might be a bit early. But some people think of Camelot as the first wall.
そなたはわらわをそこへ連れて行ってくれるのか
Will you take me to see them? Yeah. I was nervous about how I could keep it a secret from father, but her face looked so happy, I went along with her and nodded. She seemed not to notice the meaning behind my vague smile. She seemed to believe I'd really take her to all those places. I think these days, though, the Camelot's not very hard, as there's so many servants who can just melt the entirety of the map by themselves. Like if you bring Super Orion doesn't give a fuck. Like, he just melts people. Herc can melt people, but like, you know, people have to know about Herc. So like, if you didn't use Herc all the time, you wouldn't know that you could just bully people. I think these days it's pretty easy if you're like trying to just crush Camelot. Like, there's a lot of the archers these days, and a lot of people's accounts are strong enough they could just melt through it. So if you're bringing supports, you're pretty well set up. That said, it's still like moderately challenging, I think. Depends on like how much you know or how much you're trying to learn, right? Yeah, you speedrun part 1 on JP. Yeah, but it's easier to speedrun a game if you already know what you're doing. That's different. If you're doing it blind for the first time, it's gonna be harder. But I think it's relatively considerably easier due to the escalation of what the servants that are available can do, and what your existing servants can do. Yeah, most of the challenge is new players not having a grasp of game mechanics, but I think it's still pretty easy because a lot of the characters are a lot stronger than they were. You have a lot of characters who can absolutely dummy everything, and you have like characters are mostly level 100 or 120 if they're on someone's support list. You have command codes, so you can cleanse debuffs or get things that you couldn't previously even acquire. Like, you know, you can just command code your way to using Robin Hood, right? Like, you just use the fucking Poison Robin Hood combo to kill most things if you need to, and that's a 3-star. Chat can carry in power creep and give 120s. True, chat can also carry you, making things relatively easy, or at least give you outs pretty quickly, but I feel like in general, like the actual availability of what you have, what you can use, your supports are just going to be stronger in general than they were like 2 years ago. Anyway, you're going on a date with the boys? Alright, catch you later, dude. She seemed to believe I'd really take her to those places. Oh. She was pure and genuine. She'd probably never been tricked by anyone, or maybe it's better to say she'd never learned how to doubt. Her smile was somehow radiant and yet pathetic. I wanted to find a way to grant her modest wish.
わらわはもうベアトリーチェは嫌だ
I've had enough of
わ
Beatrice.
らわが何者なのか
I want to know who I am.
知りたいベアトリーチェではない
I want to start out as a
新
new
しい人
human,
間を始めたい
not Beatrice.
だからここから連れ出してほしい
I want to start out as a new human. I want you to take me from here.
もう紅茶もいらぬ
I don't need tea
ド
anymore.
レスもいらぬ
I don't need
金
this
蔵
dress.
とも二度と会わぬ
I won't meet
ここよ
Kinzo
りわ
again.
らわを連れ出してくれ
One of the fights you were on the longest was the trash days where we had to kill some security bots and a dragon. Ah, down in the Atlas compound, yeah. I mean, that fight, maybe that fight messes you up because there's a mix of enemies. I assume that's what it is. Like, you can't just bring one character, you need like a mix of decent characters. Of like maybe 2 characters or a good all-rounder. Please take me from here, Rosa. However, that responsibility was one a child like me couldn't hope to fully bear. Still, when I saw her serious gaze along with that brilliant smile that made it look as though a possessing spirit had left her, I could feel a little courage start to rise up in me. It was definitely something that would get me in a lot of trouble, and yet it was definitely the right thing to do. I don't know how it'll turn out, but I'll take her away from here. Of course, I won't be able to talk to father and not mother either. Should I talk to Oni-sama or One-sama? No. What about that reliable Genji-san? Oh. What about Kumasawa, who I can always talk to when I'm in trouble? I'm sure they'll be able to do something. Anyway, for now, I'll take her out of here. This is already a place she didn't want to be. So I took her to the crack in the fence and let her outside. She was all nervous, checking to make sure there were no wolves around. But once that fear disappeared, even just walking around the dense forest seemed to be fun somehow. Every time she found something, she'd ask me about it, and they were all really trivial things. What's that flower? What's that leaf? What's that sound? That smell? It really was like the inside of the fence had been her entire world. Now that she'd traveled beyond the limits of her world. What have you missed since we found the hidden mansion was real? Since we found the hidden mansion was real, basically we've met Beatrice, and it seems like she's not even aware of anything outside the world, like she was basically raised in a bubble and not given any education whatsoever. That's basically what we learned, and currently Rosa is just telling her story of how she met Beatrice and has brought her outside the fence. That's where we're at right now. It's strange. When I first saw her, I thought she was the witch herself relaxing in the witch's mansion, but now it was different. Or actually, the complete opposite. She left a world she believed finite and was overjoyed at the realization that the world was endless, something she'd never thought of before. Everything she saw was new. It was almost as though she was the one who'd been thrown into a fairy tale. If she was Alice, then I almost felt like a rabbit holding a watch. To her, it was probably a really fun walk, filled to the brim with excitement, but I was actually at a loss at what to do. After all, I walked randomly to get there. Of course, I didn't know the way back to our mansion. There were no lights in the forest, and I hadn't brought a flashlight. I realized it would be terrible if it got dark while we were still like this and grew impatient. She was too innocent, and apparently she couldn't understand at all how frightening it would be to face the night inside the forest. But I was the one who brought her outside. I had to take responsibility somehow and resolve this situation, so I had a thought. Let's go out to the ocean for now. If we then follow the beach around, we would eventually make it back to the mansion. Is she gonna drown? Is she gonna drown? I totally had the game muted. Sorry about that. Right. If we follow it around, we'll eventually make it back to the mansion. However, that's more of a problem than I imagined. I didn't have a map or a compass. There was no way I could walk in a straight line through an uncultivated forest, and I immediately lost my sense of direction. I already had no clue which trail I'd come by and was completely lost. At this rate, night would definitely fall before I had a clue where to walk. This was no time to cry, though. After all, the woman falling behind me was so innocent and having so much fun, I definitely had to lead the way through this forest, so for the sake of her smile as well, gritting my teeth so she didn't see me looking troubled, I pushed my way through the woods, advancing down a path that wasn't a path. After going through various troubles, I fortunately managed to reach the ocean, and at that time I didn't even have a clue where I was on the island, but for the time being I was just a little reassured, realizing if I went around this way I'd surely be able to return to the mansion. However, though I reached the ocean, we were at the top of a rock cliff. The beach was far below us, and I was tired from walking around the forest for so long. She died to a lack of copium. Alright. I was tired from walking around the forest. I figured an open area, even a rocky beach, would probably be easier to walk in, so I suggested we go down the cliff somehow. It looked dangerous, but I figured there was no other way. However, Beatrice agreed to my plan without doubts. Even though she was probably older than me, she meekly obeyed as though she were some kind of chick who thought I was her mother. I searched to see if there was some part of the cliff I'd be able to get down. And then I found a place where the cliff had fallen over and made a slope. It looked a little dangerous. This is stupid, by the way. I don't do those. Like, what are you doing, Rosa? If I went down using both hands and both legs like I was crawling, I thought it'd probably be okay. Let's go down here. It'll be dangerous if we aren't careful. But if we go down the beach and walk along it, I don't think we'll have to worry about being lost anymore. Indeed. If that's what you're doing, I'll go too. Even getting lost is fun for me. Quite amusing. She really had no sense of danger. There was probably no doubt she'd lived a life without discomfort. Even though she knew it would get dark when night fell, she couldn't imagine how dangerous the inside of a forest could be without a light. Furthermore, it seemed she couldn't grasp at all how dangerous it might be if she fell from the cliff. I warned her repeatedly to be careful. And yet you're still taking her climbing down a cliff you don't need to climb around? Alright, I cautiously examined our potential route down. It seemed to be quite a long drop. I think it might have been about 10 meters down. If you look at it from the bottom, it probably would have looked shorter than the roof of the mansion. But looking from the top, it felt like staring down from the observation room on Tokyo Tower. But Beatrice still appeared to be completely without fear. It felt as though she'd never been taught that high places were dangerous. Or maybe she believed that she was a witch, and that she could fly, so there wasn't any need to worry.
気をつけてくださいね。
Please be
結構
careful.
高いから。
We're pretty high up. Indeed. I like how she still has like this pipe in her hand in her sprite. When you're just like, is she just casually like wearing this dress and smoking as they're climbing?
気をつけるぞ。
I should be
下
careful.
へ降りたら海がある
Looks like we can get to the ocean if we go
な。そこ
down.
に水族館があるのか。
Is it an aquarium in it?
いえ、この島には水族館はないですよ。
There aren't any aquariums on this
でも、
island.
海にはたくさんの魚がい
There
ると
should
思
be
いま
lots
す。
of fish in the sea though.
そうか。
See?
魚はいるのか。
So there are fish?
そなたが話してくれた、クジラとかイルカとかペンギンとかはいるのか。
Are there whales, dolphins, and penguins like you
いえ
talked about?
そういうのは水族館に行か
Have
な
to
い
go
と
to
い
an
ない
aquarium
で
for those. Sorry. They're really hard to
す。
find.
水族館は島を出ないとないですよ。
You'd have to leave this island to find an aquarium.
そうなのか。
That's so.
だが楽しみだ。
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
クジラとはどんな魚
What
な
kind
の
of
か。
fish are whales? They are not fish, they are mammals. But they're essentially colossal fish that breathe air.
すっごく大きな魚で、あれ、哺乳類かな。
They're really big fish. Wait, aren't they mammals? Yes, yes they are.
それで潮を吹いたりします。
They spit seawater into the air. The whales have left, the penguin has left.
ならばイル
And
カは
dolphins?
頭のいい魚で、あれ、
They're really smart fish. Aren't they also
哺乳
mammals?
類だっ
Rosa's like, wait, aren't they also
け。
mammals?
とても頭が良くて、
They're
芸とか
smart.
を覚えら
They
れ
can
るん
be
ですよ。
taught. They can be taught tricks and stuff.
ならばペンギンはどうなのか。
What about penguins?
あれ、
Aren't
こ
they
れは
birds?
鳥類だっけ。
Yeah, they're flightless birds.
なんだ。
What's going on?
水族館なのに、さっきから
You're
魚が
talking
出
about
てこない
aquariums, but none of these things are fish? Sorry if I like the non-fish creatures at aquariums, Beatrice. They're things closely associated. The aquariums are for things that are closely related to the water. So you have penguins, who are basically like reliant on the water. So whales and dolphins are appropriate for an aquarium because they require water. The aquarium doesn't say it's for aquatic creatures, not for fish. You should probably redefine what an aquarium's for. It's for aquatic creatures. It's a zoo for aquatic creatures.
まあその魚だけでなく、いろいろな海の生き物がいっぱいいるんですよ。
Here aren't just fish, it's full of all kinds of things that live in the ocean.
それはとても楽しみだ。
Looking forward to that. She let out what might have been a funny, rushed and short cry. It probably a scream. It came right out of the blue. Her body separated from the cliff and silently fell. I immediately wanted to say something to her. I wanted to say, didn't I tell you to be more careful? It was the thought of a child. It was the thought of a child immediately getting mad when something bad happens, trying to find an excuse to show it wasn't really their fault. Of course, I said it out loud. Are you okay? Didn't I warn you over and over? Hey, brilliant idea. Is she dead already?
それで
So,
崖から落ちて
she fell from the cliff,
どうなったんだ。
and then?
彼女はどうした
What happened to her?
ローザ
Rosa? Man, I was thinking she'd drown, but we didn't even make it. My first projection was she'd drown the second we saw the ocean, And then it turns out there was a cliff, and she's like dies to cliff because she wasn't taking care. Rosa fell silent. Her gaze dropped to her feet as though she were seeping through the floor into some disgusting memory. She died, didn't she? Ava's brutal words were ones Rosa had most wanted to avoid. And when she was hit with them, she screamed in resignation. Yes, she died. It was a rocky beach with plenty of sharp, dangerous rocks exposed. Her eyes were still open, and an incredible amount of blood kept pouring out, quickly spreading out until it looked like a red carpet. I spoke to her, shook her, but she didn't respond. Not even a blink. She wouldn't even close her eyes. It's all my fault. She was wearing a dress, remember? Even though I knew her outfit was difficult to move, and I said we should go down the cliff. I mean, this was obviously leading to her demise because Rosa said she somehow did something that led to her death. So you had to predict how she was going to die, right? And how it wasn't going to be Rosa's fault because Rosa probably wasn't going to try to kill her as like a, what is she, like 14 or something? Like, the story was not leading to Rosa attempting to murder her, so. She was innocent. She obeyed what I said without a
いつまで死んでいるつもりか。
How long do you plan on remaining
い
dead?
い加減に目を覚ませ。
Open your eyes
ま
already.
ったく。わらわの預かり知れぬところで勝手に肉塊に姿を変えよう。
Turning into a lump of meat all by yourself while I'm gone.
おめえのとこの太もも姉ちゃんとイチャついてただけだぜ。
I was just flirting with your ass Nechan friends. Battler, the kind of guy who flirts with women who will murder him without a thought. They murder him and he's just like, yeah, I was just flirting with the chicks with those nice chicks with asses, and she's like, really?
それより、これは
More
どういう
importantly,
こと
the
だ。
heck's going on here?
見
Well,
たままよ。
as you can see,
わらわは足を踏み外して転落し、
I missed my footing, fell
死
down,
んだ。
and died.
なんだと
Wait, the hell?
19人目として登場しておきながら
Even though you showed up as the 19th person,
死んだだと
you were already dead?
ふざけるな
No,
そんなわけ
that's
ない
impossible.
ローザおばさんは子供だったし焦ってた
Rosa was a kid, she
医者が
panicked.
いたわけでもない
It's not like a doctor was there. She probably thought you were dead and you were probably alive and pretending to be dead or something.
仮死状態か何かで生きていたんだ
This is the definition of copium, Battler. Like, oh, this person's head got cut off. They're just like pretending that they're dead. They'll regen. They're like Wolverine. Is that right? It can't be true. She's got to be alive. Otherwise, how can she be here? The kid-aged Aunt Rosa shook Beatrice's body, crying. I stared into that face, too. But her eyes were still open, and it really was a corpse. Battler huffing copium, yeah. I wanted to dodge the issue by saying something vague like she must be playing dead. But no matter how I looked at it, it didn't look fake at all. It really did look like she was dead. Beatrice fell upside down from a cliff of that height, and her head had smashed against the pointed tip of those sharp rocks. You probably would die after landing on those rocks, yeah? From that height. But I couldn't accept it. No matter how dead she looked, she had to be alive. And she went on to become this damn irritating witch. It makes all the inconsistencies fit. Grandfather must have kept her confined constantly in a hidden mansion. Then to take revenge for that, she committed several atrocious murders. Aunt Rosa probably mistakenly thought she was dead, but she was actually alive as soon as Rosa left. She would miraculously breathe again and somehow lived on until today, opening the curtain on her revenge drama. I mean, if you want to say that Grandpa's raising and grooming children to be his wife from the cradle, who's to say he didn't do that twice, okay? And this was 20 years ago. Who's to say that he didn't do that again, and this is the next Beatrice, the Beatrice the third on her quest for revenge. That's something that no one's pointed out is a possibility. They're focused on this that happened 20 years ago, but I mean, if the guy's groomed one person who then escaped and committed suicide by jumping off of a cliff, which is what Grandpa would probably imagine, because if he doesn't know what Rosa saw, then, and he didn't have an investigative team because he's trying to hide the body. Yeah, it could be Beatrice the Third, Beatrice the Fourth. It could be Beatrice the Fifth. Who the fuck knows? At this point, who knows? We know that was Beatrice the Second, who's dead and was raised from birth to be his experiment, and presumably killed herself by jumping off a cliff. So, yeah, why not? Otherwise, the facts don't fit together. Battler isn't thinking about this. Beatrice could be in her 20s. And the next Beatrice in this fucked up line. I won't let you trick me so easily. That's what I'm leaning on. Can you repeat it in red? Oh. That's not relevant. She's dead. Who cares? She'll repeat it in red. She's dead. I think Beatrice is confident enough to say that the person who is here, pictured here, dies. She'll say it in red. She has to be alive, right? No, she doesn't. It's obvious. No, it's not. How does that look alive to you? It's definitely dead. My theory that the 19th person was grandfather's mistress, a human Beatrice, had been defeated. No, it hasn't. It's still alive and well. It's so obvious. This was 19 years ago. If you're going to be raising children to, like, adulthood and grooming them to be your next wife or the image of Beatrice, like, you can fucking do that with another person. You're psychotic enough to do that for another person. To another person after you've killed two people? Like, fuck it. If the first one wasn't a problem for him and the second one's not going to be a problem, he's probably going to go for number 3. I plan to strike back from a defensive position, but... Then who are you? You just died, right? Don't tell me. You revived yourself with magic. I already explained, have I not? Yeah, her explanation's already done. She doesn't need to provide one. She says, the me lying over there possesses my soul, but the body's... As she says, little more than a cage of flesh tying me to the physical world. And this is how the cage of flesh was broken. You understand what this means? I don't have a clue. You don't have a clue anymore. Keep having fun with your witch girl tricks. I'll listen to that in place of a smack. Wait, it's empty? Can I get some more black tea? Ronobe. Our guest would like some tea. When Beato clapped her hands, Ronobe appeared. Beatrice alternates between torturing us and providing us tea while she tells us amusing stories and we play games. Like, it's like, this is a weird version of this weird purgatory / hell world is kind of weird. It's like we're gonna get ground to a pulp or brutally murdered repeatedly and we're gonna be brutally murdered and resurrected repeatedly until they get bored and decide to tell us a story. I mean, the story might be torture, but I guess you're not suffering that much. Butlers sure are convenient. That they are. A refill, you say? Certainly. How much shall I pour you? Well, I've got more than enough snacks. Half will be fine. Even so, filling it to the brim is the English custom. Even though just enough to wet my throat would have been fine, he filled it to the top. I turned my back to Beato, sipping it in silence. The guy's just doing that to be controversial. He's like, oh sorry, he's just trying to be contrarian, sorry. Hey, open your eyes. Beatrice! Rosa shook the corpse that had once been me. I watched over her from a short distance away. Ah, so I fell from there and died. For a while, I believed that was true. I saw Rosa spend a long time beside my corpse and watched her as she ran away. Eventually, I realized I was a different individual from that corpse. That's right.
わらわは
I am
わらわ
me.
か。ようやく金蔵の戒めから逃れられたのか。
So I finally managed to escape from Kinzo's bonds. Eventually, I felt the memory returning, the fact that I was an endless witch who lived for over 1,000 years. I'd like to point out that Beatrice herself said that when she untethers her soul from her body, she has to actively protect herself from being blasted away by, like, magical winds or some bullshit, and yet here she's just standing there dead, being like, oh, I'm dead. So that's a little bit strange, unless it might be like a time delay thing, where, like, it only withers away at you and it takes a while to set in, but that is something to note, right? She didn't have any active protections up. She's not panicking. And the second she realizes she's a witch, she's not like, oh, I need to defend myself so I don't disintegrate and can maintain my existence. Let's see. Then I remembered I'd been summoned by Kinzo and I'd been imprisoned by him for a long time. While being imprisoned in a cage of flesh, I lost my memory as a witch. But thanks to Rosa, well, if you could say that, thanks to my accidental death, I'd now finally regained myself.
ローザ、
Rosa.
そなたはわらわを死なせてしまったと
You
後
probably
悔して
regret
いる
bringing
わ
about
ら
my
わに
death.
とっては感謝したいくらいよ。
But I should be thanking you. I couldn't see Rosa anymore. Did she go to call a doctor or was she so terrified she ran away? It no longer mattered. The soulless shell no longer has any value, and yet I'm so frail now. Even this glorious midday sun is agony to me. I destroyed my human form and changed it into several gold butterflies. With my magical power as frail as it is now, this form is easier to maintain. To escape even a little from the light of the sun, I rode the wind and flew up the side of the cliff. It'll probably be cooler in the forest. Anyway, I'll take some time to recuperate and regain my former power, as I ponder how to make Kinzo pay up all he owes me. Dancing alone through the air, I looked down at the shore one more time. On the rocky shore lay the figure of what had once been me, the figure I would eventually regain. To regain the form of that physical body I'd thrown away, it'd probably take more than 100, 200 days. It might require 1,000 days or even more. However, I'm the Endless Witch, the Golden Witch who's lived for over 1,000 years. Waiting any countable number of days would be no problem. Oh, Kinzo. Regret that you are not here now. No longer will you be able to capture me. That's obviously not the story that Rosa told them, though, about Beatrice looking down on
お前
her
は黄
own
金の
corpse.
蝶に姿を変え、森の中に潜んで魔力が回復するのを待った。
And then you
ってのかな？
turn to gold butterflies. Hide in the forest and wait for your magic power to be restored? Is that what you're saying?
そういうことだ。
That's Beatrice's pitch. I think there being a 19th person is not disproven by this. She's only disproven the existence of a 19th person 20 years ago.
そなたを嘲笑するためにこの姿を取るが、本来は蝶たちの姿でいた方が
I
魔
take
力
this
的に
form
は
to
楽
sneer
な
at
の
you,
だ。
but it's easier magically for me to keep my form as gold butterflies.
無理しねえで楽な格好で嫌がれよ。
Well, feel free to take a load off and stick to whatever's
ム
easiest.
カつく笑い声を聞かずに済むぜ。
I personally wouldn't mind not having to hear your irritating laugh. Proceeds to
蝶
laugh.
に姿を変え、森に紛れたわらわを探し出すことなど、もは
When
や
I turned
金
into
蔵には
butterflies
不可能なこと。
And I slipped into the forest. It was already no longer possible for Kinzo to find me.
だが、金蔵も指
But he
を
wasn't
加えてい
dismayed.
るわけではなかった。しかし、わらわを捕らえる方法はすぐに用意はできぬ。
Still, he was not immediately able to prepare a way to catch me.
そのため、まずはわらわをこの島から逃さぬ方法。
He first moved to prevent me from leaving this island.
そして、わらわ
To
が
keep me
力を
from
取り
regaining
戻
my
すことがないよう。
How would he do that? Could you not just fly to the next island? Could you not just fly to the next island almost immediately because he doesn't know when you're coming?
やれやれ。とにかく金蔵の執念深いことと言ったら、
At any rate,
想
Kinzo's
像を絶
spitefulness
する。
was
あ
unimaginable.
れに惚れられるのも、なかなかに
How could he love by
辛い
someone
もの
like
だ
that?
ぞ。
蝶になったお前を逃がさない方法？
He found a way to keep you from leaving after you turned into butterflies?
なんだよ。森全体に蚊帳でも張ったってのか？
What, he put a buck net around the entire forest?
うん。
Indeed.
それを魔法
Magic
的そなたは知っておるか？
Don't you know?
船着き場の先の洋上に岩礁が浮かび、そこに小さな東洋魔術の祠があることを。
Don't you know? On the sea, in front of the harbor is a reef upon which sits a small shrine of Eastern magic.
ああ、あれか。
Oh, that,
今年
yeah.
はなくなってたけどな。
It was gone by this year, though.
昔、修験者が作ってったとかいう祠なんだろ？
A small shrine built long ago by a Shugenja, right?
六軒島は元来、歪みのある島でございます。
From the beginning, Rockenjima has been an island enveloped by
魔力
distortion.
的な存在や、それに類した存在を引きつけます。
It attracts things of magical power and other related
お
creatures.
嬢様も、そんなうちのお
The
一人
lady
でござい
yourself
ま
is
しょ
one
う
of them.
ね。
I see.
紅茶のおかわりはいかがですか？
More tea?
いただこうぞ。
Please.
それらは人間たちに害をなし、おそらく数々の不気味なる伝承を残
They
してき
brought
た
harm
で
to
ある。
humans and probably left several eerie legends in their wake. Okay.
それを聞きつけた東洋魔術師が古代に設けたのがあの
The small
祠
shrine
な
was built in ancient times by Eastern magician who heard of them.
長い時間を経て、
A long time passed.
そ
That
の
power was
力を
lost.
失われて
Okay.
おって、
Okay.
金蔵はそれを修復することで島の結界を蘇らせ、
By
わ
repairing
ら
it.
わを再び島に縛り付けたの。
Kinzo restored this island's barrier and once again bound me to the island. How quickly was he able to do that? Surely you could have left within a day, right? Surely the second it hits night, you fly around the island to figure out where their boat is. Right? And then just go in the direction of the nearest landmass, assuming you can see it.
西洋魔女のお前に東洋の魔法なんて
Does
通じる
Eastern
のか？
magic work on a Western witch like you?
本来は相性が悪い。
Normally the affinity's
し
poor.
かしわらわを封じたいという目的においては、
The person
あ
who's
る意
sealing me
味
here,
都合が
though,
良かっただろう
it's
な。
quite convenient in a way.
わらわも西洋魔術であれば心得がある。
If it was Western magic, I would have had some knowledge.
どのような結界であっても何かの手が打てたであろ
A measure could have been I could have taken a
う。し
measure
かし
to deal with it, but
東
Eastern
洋魔
magic,
術は専門外よ。
it's outside my expertise.
わらわが飲まんとするスープに対しスプーンではなく箸を与えられたようなものだ。
It was as if I'd been given chopsticks instead of a spoon for some soup I wanted to drink.
東洋魔術が強く支配する空間では、西洋魔術はひどく力を失い
In
ま
that
す。
space dominated by Eastern magic, Western magic loses much
た
of
だ
its
でさ
power.
え、千日はかけたであろう
Even
力
if
を
she's
取り
given
戻す
1,000 days
時
to
間
regain her
をさら
strength,
にさらに長くかけねばな
you'd
らな
have
か
to
っ
wait
たので
many
す。
more.
それで約20年かけて魔力を取り戻し、
So, you
今こ
say
うして蘇っ
it
た
took
と
20
言い
years
たい
to
の
regain your
か？
power and now you've revived, as we can all see? That's a pitch, okay. That's the pitch, right?
辛く長い年
They
月
were
であ
horribly
っ
long
た。
years.
わらわは黄金の蝶の姿のまま長く日々を送り、金蔵の屋敷を見つけ、奴の日常を見守った。
They were horribly long years. I spent many days in the form of gold butterflies, found Kinzo's mansion, and watched over him every day.
どのように仕返しをしてやろうか。それを思案することだけを
I
日
lived
々
through
の
those
楽
days
しみに生きてきた。
with no means to enjoy myself except to ponder how I'd get back at him.
わらわにとって幸運だったのは、その間の20年
The period of 20 years was
金
fortunate
蔵
for
は
me.
わらわを探し出し、捕らえるあらゆる秘術に言葉
Kinzo
で
tried to
失
use all
敗
manner of
した
magic
点
to
だった
find and capture me, but each failed.
人間に起こせる奇跡の数など、
There's a limit to how many miracles a single person can
わ
bring
らわを
about.
あれだけ長く捉えていただけでも十分に身に過ぎた奇跡だ。
I mean, even holding me captive for that long had been a miracle far above his place. You think that's a miracle? Alright.
そう何度も捉えられてはたまらぬわ。
It'd be unthinkable for me to be captured like that multiple times. I mean, you said you have no ability to deal with Eastern magic, so any Eastern capturing ritual could have been effective, right? Maybe? Who knows?
じい様が前のゲームだかで言ってたな。
grandfather said something in the
魔
previous
法
game.
は確率的奇跡に宿る
Miracle.
みたいなことをよ。
Something like magic lies in a miracle of probability.
うん。金蔵はわらわを再び捕らえる秘術を探るうちに、そこに行き着いたのだ。
Ah, as he was searching for a hidden art to capture me again, he stumbled on that.
そして、13人の生贄を捧げることで、わらわを再び蘇らせる儀式
And then he
を
woke,
つい
worked
に
out
編
the
み出したの
ceremony.
だ。
It involves the offering of 13 people as sacrifices to revive me again.
13人の
13 people as sacrifices. You mean the game we're playing right now?
それが魔女の碑文
The Witch's Epitaph.
生贄の歌でござい
A
ます
song of sacrifices.
第1の晩に6
6
人
people on the first night.
第2の晩に
Two on
2
the
そ
next.
して第4の晩から第8の晩にかけて5人
And then 5 more on the 4th through 8th
合計
8th
13
twilights.
人の生贄を捧げる
A forbidden ceremony involving the offering of a total of 13 people as
その
sacrifices.
生贄はランダムに決められ儀式を執り行う金蔵自身も例外にはな
Sacrifices
りま
are
せ
to
ん
be chosen randomly, and the one who held the ceremony, Kinzo himself, was no exception.
バカ野郎
Dumbass? I
こ
suppose
の島
so.
で起こったあの凄惨な殺人が
You're
全部
saying all the
お
murders
かし
on this
な儀
island
式
are
だ
a
って
weird
言うの
ceremony?
かよ
I had a vague idea this might be the case. We already knew this. But I couldn't just hear that it was true from a witch and a demon and say, oh, really? And accept it.
六軒島には18人いる。
There's 18 people on
13
Rockenjima.
人が生贄に捧げられ、
13
5人
are
だ
offered
け
as
が生き
sacrifices.
残る。
5 are left
そ
alive.
してわらわは蘇る。
And then I revive.
つまり、金蔵がわらわに再び会える確率は、
In
だい
other
たい
words,
3分の1といったとこ
the
ろだ。
odds Kinzo would meet me again are probably around 1 in
その
3.
確率に自らの命を落
You
と
bet
し、
his life on those odds.
残りわずかな寿命の最後の一瞬に、わらわ
Wishing
と
for
の
a
再
reunion with
会を
me.
望んだのだ。
At the last bit of his remaining life.
そのふざけた儀式のために俺たち親族が集められたってのかよ
You're saying he gathered our family for that sake of a joke of a ceremony? Yes.
ふざけやがって
Don't fuck with me.
いい加減なことを抜かすんじゃねえ
Don't say stuff like that, damn it.
元より契約の通りだ。
Set out in our contract from the
金蔵
beginning.
の生を終え
When
る
his
と
life
貸し
ended.
与えた黄金と、そして金蔵が生み出した財産のすべてをわらわがもらい受けることになっておる。
When his life ended, all the gold I lent him and all the assets he created would be given to me.
金蔵には散々に英雄を飲まされたが、
Yes, he did stab me in the back quite
今
brutally.
となってはこの1000年でも稀な時間だった。
But if you look back on it now, it's a rare and precious time during my 1,000 years of life.
何しろ、
Boredom's my
魔
natural
女の天
enemy.
敵は退屈よ。
If being dead for the last century might be an interesting way to
それから
experience that.
逃れることのできる数十年間を提供した金蔵には、
Kinzo, who offered me a chance to run away from that for several
な
decades.
るほど。
I
それも
suppose I
含
own
め
for
て
that.
借りがあるやもしれぬ。
Yeah, I guess from one perspective you do, is you assume you're immortal and aren't actually going to perish at any point. Sure.
わらわは金蔵のゲームに乗ることにした。
I decided to go along with Kinzo's
そ
game.
してまず、金蔵は後ろ宮家当主の指輪をわらわに返却する。
So to start, Kinzo returns the Yashiromiya family head's
わ
ring
ら
to
わ
me.
の黄金で復興させた家だからな。
It's my gold that revives the family, after all.
そして、13人の生贄を気まぐれ
Then
に決
13
める
people at
の。
random are
そ
sacrificed.
してその過程で、お前たちが右往左往し、
While it happens, you all run
わ
about.
らわに立ち向かおうと様々な人間模様を見せてくれることは、
You show me all
わ
kinds
ら
of
わにと
human
って非
interactions.
常に愉
You
快な
try
こ
to
とだ。
oppose me, entertaining me
わら
greatly.
わはこの金蔵のゲームを
I've
実
taken a
に
liking
気
to this
に
game
入
of
っている。
Kinzo's. Seems like a fun game.
あ
Battler still lost on how this isn't magic, and I'm just sitting here thinking, why couldn't it not be magical?
そんな魔法話は絶対信じねえぞ
What? I don't see any dialogue. What? Oh. It's on the next click. There was a dead click there, I guess. I definitely won't believe in that kind of
じ
magic
ゃあ
story.
お前は誰なんだ
And who are you?
お前は崖から転
You
落して
fell off a
死んだ
cliff
ん
and
だろ
died? Battler. You have to assume reasonable things. If she fell off a cliff and died, she's not this Beatrice.
魂が抜け出して蝶になって森へ
Your soul slipped out, became butterflies and went to the
そ
forest?
んなのあるわけねえだろうがだがお前はここにいる
But you're here.
誰だってんだ
Who are
お
you?
前こそが19人目じゃ
Aren't
ね
you
え
the
のか
19th
よ
person? Battler, you gotta think for 2 seconds.
そうである
It's true.
な。
I'm the 19th
わ
person.
らわこそが19人目であろうな。
I am the 19th person.
だがダメだぜ。
But it's useless, right?
全然
It's
ダ
all
メだ。
useless. Oh, red sword out.
この六軒島に19人以上の人間は存在しない。
There are no more than 18 humans on this Rockin' Jima.
なんだと
Did you say?
ってことは18人プラス X の
You're saying the X
X は
and
存
18 plus
在
X
しない
doesn't
っての
exist?
かよ
Dun dun dun. She specified humans on this Rockin' Jima. Is this true for the duration of the entire scenario, including and up to the deaths of the first 6 people? Yeah, when is this?
俺が取ったコマ X は存在しないってのか
You're saying the
よ
piece I took, the X, doesn't exist?
そういうことになります。
That is what this means.
実にご愁
My
傷
condolences.
しかし
Still, you
お
move
嬢様の
fast,
手は
milady.
早いですな。もう少し泳がせて最後にひっくり返すものとばかりを
I
待って
thought
お
you'd
り
let
ま
him
した。
flounder before spinning everything around to the end.
さてバトラス様、紅茶のおかわりは
Oh,
もう
Valerie.
結構ですか？
Would you like some more tea? Or, sorry, as he said, would some more tea be
い
agreeable?
らねえよチキショ
I don't need it.
俺は信じないぞ
I don't believe it. There's no more than 18 humans on the island. Okay. Ask for clarification on the timing of there being 18 humans. Is she saying at the time she perished? Is she saying during the entire duration of the event there's never more than 18 people on the island?
18人の中に犯人がいる
The
わけ
culprit can't be
ね
one of those 18. Why don't you ask the question like that Beatrice would know, did Grandpa, yeah, he's Grandpa to Battler. Did Grandfather ever try to restart his Beatrice project by having a new person, making like a new homunculus? Or something like that. Because if she's counting herself as a homunculus and saying there's never more than 18 people here, why don't you say, do you make another homunculus? Did you do this? Did you do that? There's a few questions that need clarifying here that would close out the existence of an actual 19th person instead of just focusing on Beatrice, this Beatrice, and not any other. I feel like you'd want to close this off thoroughly.
じゃあお前は何なんだよ
What
ど
are
うし
you
て
and
こ
why
こ
are
にい
you
るん
here?
だよ
She's already explained that.
19人目が存在しないってんならお前は18人の誰かの変装だって言うのかよ
If the 19th person doesn't exist, are you saying you're one of the 18 in disguise? No, she specified human. She's specific.
そなたにとってしぶしぶとではあっても
Perhaps you are castling.
18人の誰かを疑うことが最後の逃げ道。
Although reluctantly you doubt
Castling
one of the
ことになるであろうな。
18 people is your last way out.
しかしわらわはここからが難しいのだ。
However, it will be difficult for me from here on out.
そなたはなりふりさえ捨てれば
If you stop caring about
18
propriety,
人もの人間を自在に犯人に仕立て上げら
you
れる。
could prepare a culprit freely amid 18
その
people.
18人の駒をくぐ
Thinking
り
you
抜
reach
け
checkmate
わらわを認めさせチェックメイトに至るのは
by evading the 18
実
pieces.
に難
It'll
し
be
い
truly
ことだ
difficult.
そんなことするもんか
As if you do
18
that,
人
alright.
誰も疑わない
You're not suspecting any of the 18.
疑いたく
Okay.
ないまたここに追い込まれちまったのか
Have you been cornered again?
チ
Maybe.
クショーチクショーチクショ
Is
ー
Battler smart enough to think of another answer?
三度に及んだそなたとのゲームいよいよ終盤戦のようではない
Seems
か
like we're finally approaching the end in the third round of this game of ours.
もう逃げ場はないぞ
You've nowhere to run, right? Bear in mind that, based in her opinion, furniture is not human, so this is a weird choice. Right? She says furniture is not human. Oh yeah, that is a thought actually. By Beatrice's statements, furniture is not human, and she says that, and remember that canon Genji and Shannon all believe they're furniture, or say they're furniture. So, and Beatrice acknowledges them as such. So based on that opinion, there's actually only 15 people on the island. She doesn't include furniture in her estimates. That could be a massive gap, right? If we think about the gap in her logic, because she doesn't acknowledge furniture as human, there's 3 less people than Battler thinks there are on the island, right? The Battler thinks there's 18. There could be 3 extras, correct. There could be 3 extras. So if you want to think about it, Beatrice but Beatrice may also not be regarding herself as human either. It's not clear by what she regards herself as. She's a witch, but like, think of it this way: a witch is a profession, right? Gouda and Kamas, Gouda, whatever you say his name is, and Kumasawa are humans that are employees of the family, right? They don't think of themselves as furniture, and they see themselves as individuals. But Shannon, Can, and Genji are like, I am furniture, all the time. So I would say there's 3 less people on the island than he thinks there are. Beatrice also may not be counting herself, but I think that's kind of fair because her proposition is that she's a witch, right? So she says there's 18 people on the island. There's no more than 18 people on the island. She could be including her. She could be saying, well, my premise implies that I'm a witch, and I'm kind of implying that witches aren't people here and there, so I'm not on the island because I'm a ghost, right? That's kind of okay. But she does, in her dialogue, not say that, like, furniture aren't people, right? So if furniture's not people, then she's not a person. There's only so many people on the island. So I think there is a gap of a few people for Battler here. So I'm not sure if the author is intending to leave this gap or not, but the gap exists based on how Beatrice addresses people and specifically says that humans/people are not furniture. They're mutually exclusive. But then she also says that, like, Shannon's kind of becoming a person. Like, it's kind of a weird state where Beatrice qualifies a profession and a state of existence or race as the same thing. Like, from my perspective, learning magic doesn't make you not human, right? Like, if I become an expert at video games, I'm probably still human. If I become a wizard, I'm still human. But Beatrice might say, well, I'm a fucking spirit. Like, I'm not human anymore because I'm just... I've no longer attached to my, like, biological or mortal shell, so I'm actually a spirit and thus a different species. Which I think you... depending on whether or not you feel like your soul or spirit is, like, directly associated with your race or species, might mean that they're unrelated. Especially because, like, typically, you know, if you consider things that are effective against ghosts, you know, magical things that are effective against specifically ghosts don't normally hit or specifically effective against humans don't work against ghosts. Most of the time, right? Transcending humanity? Yeah, maybe. She thinks she's an eternal witch, right? Like, she has to maintain her own argument, so based on her own argument, she's not human. And she might have also been just there if Battler was paid. Maybe, if you want to think about it, if she considers herself human, which she should have said, yeah, Beatrice wouldn't count herself because she's dead until the end, right? There's like a few reasons why Beatrice isn't counting herself, but here's a question. If Battler could clarify, you just said there's no more than 18 people on the island. Could you say, are you human? And if she's like, no, I'm a witch, then you're like, oh, okay. But she might have just acted herself, right? Like, if this is her text, right? There are no more than 18 humans on this rock in Jima. Maybe if Battler were to follow this up with a question like, are you human? I know you're a witch, but are you human? That would be an interesting question just to follow up here. Because if she says she's human, then you say, interesting. So you're not on this island, and then she's like gone, right? I mean, she would just not answer, right? That would be the appropriate answer. You're like, are you human? She's like... like, she could just, like, waffle about on it, but, you know, it would be a good follow-up to this. to force her to not answer. Because typically when she's not answering, it's usually because she's trying not to lose, as she's basically only been given the ability to speak or to hold her tongue or to argue in her own defense. If you ask her a question and she's like, I refuse to answer that, that usually means she's not going to tell you because it would make her look bad. At least that's how we've been taking it. Either that or she's tactically not answering because she'll trip you up later. But like that could be a good, could have been a good tripping up point where Beatrice is overextending and all you have to do is ask if she considers herself human to defeat her permanently. Like, you're a spirit now, but would you consider yourself human? And if she's like, no, you're like, interesting. Well, I guess you're not real because you're not on the island. Bye. We're finally approaching the end in the third round of this game of ours. You have nowhere to run, right?
お前の大好きな18人を疑いたくないだろう。
There's also that it's not a game if she just shuts it
わらわがそ
down.
れをかぶってやるぞ。
Yes, the rules of the game are that she can't just shut it down by saying, I'm a witch and on the island in red text. But that's also because it makes the red text, brings the red text into question as it's no longer a game. But Battler's goal is to prove that she doesn't exist, right? So if she accidentally suggests something that makes it so that it's only true that she's not existing, she's just kind of lost the game, she loses the game, but she only loses the game if Battler wins, right? If she can say something that proves, she can say something that definitively proves it, but if Battler doesn't catch it, it's Battler's fault and he hasn't won yet. Does that make sense? It's like if you're playing a game of Uno and you forget to say Uno when you're down to one card. It's like you could lose at any point, but if your opponent never says you didn't say Uno, you can just play your last card and win, right? That's kind of how it goes. I think that's how I would justify it. It's like, if she fucks up enough that she gives him an opening and he doesn't take advantage of it, it'll work. He doesn't take advantage of it, she's still good. Because it's still a winnable game for either party, right? And like, based on how this game's kind of working, it's like when you fuck up, you're gonna lose, right? It's like, another example would be like if you're playing a fighting game against someone and you accidentally let your guard down. If they don't exploit that and punch you into like a full combo, I mean, that's not my fault. I accidentally let my guard down, or like my hand slipped off the controller for 2 seconds and you didn't notice. Not my fucking problem. It's not my problem. Like, yeah, I could have just lost there, but I didn't because you didn't exploit it. There's all sorts of games where that works. Or even if you wanted something more direct, since Uno was more gameplay really, you could also say, like, if you do something really stupid in a game, like, you know, you're playing some StarCraft and you play really, really greedy, obviously someone can, like, punish your greed if you're being really greedy, but if they never do that, not their fault. You can easily have thrown the game just by making some decisions that are perfectly reasonable in game, but it has to be exploited for you to lose. Right? So that works too. You're playing StarCraft, you play really greedy, your opponent doesn't exploit it, you get an advantage and win off of that. You get an advantage and you win off of that greed. And you only won because your opponent didn't exploit it. I think there's plenty of games where that kind of works.
なのになぜわらわを拒むのか。
Were you trying to hide that from me? Why do you refuse me? You don't want to suspect any of the beloved people in the 18? Yeah.
序盤は本のように、中盤は魔術師のように。
They say you should play the opening like a book, the middle game like a magician,
そして終盤は機械のようにさせとな。
and the end game like a machine. I see.
これより詰めるぞ。
I'll corner you from here on.
ゆっくり、
Slowly.
じっくり、
Carefully.
確実にな。
Slowly.
いや、それともそなたにふさわしく一気に畳みかけるのが良いのか。
On the other hand, would it be better if I press you all at once? Would I suit your style a little more?
そなたにはそれ
That
が
fits
似
well.
合
Let's
う
do
だ
that.
ろう。すでにそなたの苦手とする攻め方も知り抜いておるわ。
I'm fully aware of the sort of attacks you're weakest against. Beatrice has so many nice laughs. I mean, I like Dio and Ozzy's laughs, but they got one laugh. Beatrice has at least 3 distinct laughs. She is and that weird witch laugh that's kind of annoying. She's got 3 laughs at least. She's quite entertaining. Alright, we're back here in the visitor's mansion. The guest house? Yes, they have a dedicated guest house. That's more like a small apartment building. But still a mansion. It's distinctly not designed like a boring-ass building. Alright, we're doing the evening scenes. George and Shannon talking in the rain in the gazebo. Everyone else in one of the larger shared rooms. They can all talk. Presumably the scene's going to change without me putting anything? Yes, okay. I'm still waiting. That was like a long delay, like 10-15 seconds, where we just sat on one scene. Is it gonna make me input something now? Nope. That whole, like, okay, we're back here. Back to Kraus and Rosa. I think they're showing the passage of time rather than giving us a scene introduction for most of these shots. As you can see, I'm not inputting. My hands are not touching the keyboard, mouse, nothing. I'm just silently watching these characters show up. They're demonstrating the passage of time as it grows later and later into the evening as the discussion continues. And in the morning, we're going to see that there are 6 dead people. Aren't we? Aren't we? We just stare at the portrait of Beatrice for like 10 minutes. Get a close-up. Oh, hello. Beatrice in the flesh. Achievement unlocked, midnight. Well, 0:00, so midnight. Alright. Tick. The clock's nice and big. In my face, I can't miss it. We're on to a Wish and Reasoning 3. Okay. Just waiting. This is a long cutscene. That's mostly just rants. Here we go. Well then. How will this game be resolved? You may submit, or you may resist. Either way, it'll be an entertaining banquet worth betting my short remaining life on. In his dimly lit study, occasionally brightened by lightning, Hinzo kept mumbling and laughing to himself. On the antique clock with the intricate design that had been sitting on his desk, the 2 overlapping hands tilted to the right and began sliding. The measure of time counted up to 24, and had returned to 0 and began counting back again. 24-hour clock. 24-hour clock in this time period. Interesting. Measuring time is a brutal thing. It drags itself all the way to 24 over the course of a day and returns to 0. It certainly did count at 23:59. But is it ever able to reach 2400? If you conclude that it returns to 0 again without reaching 24, how futile it must all be. But perhaps the person's life is the same. You live hoping for a perfect 24, and in the instant you reach it, you return to 0. You'll probably praise the departed, saying he did reach 24, but he most certainly did not. In the end, he's a 0. But I'm different. I'll live and reach 24. That's ambitious. Okay.
そここそが黄金郷
That itself is the Golden Land,
ベアトリーチェの住処なのだから
for it's where Beatrice dwells. Ginzo had been fumbling around with some tarot cards for some time. It looked as though he was trying to divine his own luck with a contest, doing it over every time he didn't like the result. The most forbidden action in tarot reading is trying to predict the same thing twice. To do so ridicules the results of fortune telling, and also desecrates those beings higher than humans that give revelations through the tarot cards. However, Kinzo knew, tarot cards shouldn't be used twice because they're nothing more than a random number generator. Reading them twice naturally causes a different result to appear. Therefore, reading them twice was only forbidden to preserve the mystique of tarot cards' results. However, that didn't mean that Kinzo didn't take tarot reading seriously. His interpretation of the reading was done in a completely different way. That was to repeat the reading over and over without giving up in the slightest until he reached the result most favorable to him. To mark the set for his most favorable result would vary, but when he demanded the most favorable result in a strictly literal sense, it was the same as a simple roulette of luck where he seeked an arithmetic miracle? It's not arithmetic, it's arithmetic miracle? Alright. Whatever. However, Kinzo used miracles of numbers as the basis of his magical power, so this functioned perfectly well as a magical ritual. In other words, until the result he desired appeared perfectly, he would strive to repeat the tarot readings over and over, with conviction, turning the feelings of his heart into prayers, so that when they reached the heavens they would be sublimated into results. This was his personal magical interpretation. Therefore, even though his tarot cards were no different than those generally used, the way in which they were used was completely different. Tonight will not go as I thought. Kinzo stopped his hands for a second. He seemed not to be getting the results he wanted. On the contrary, bad cards that shouldn't show up so often appeared repeatedly, and continued to interfere with the miracle Kinzo wished for. Is that how it is? Kinzo seemed to have received some revelation that was different from normal, but judging by the unlucky cards scattered across his desk, it was difficult to imagine that the omen had been a good one. For a while he closed his eyes tightly, pondering something. And then, as the thunder roared, he made up his mind about something, took the telephone receiver, and dialed. It is I! Is Genji there? An urgent matter has come up. In front of the entrance hall, Shannon's once burning face had been cooled off by the frigid air. She thought that George's proposal would surely come sooner or later. It wasn't as though she hadn't prepared herself mentally, and she answered by nodding. Had she been reckless because of her youth? Should she have thought about her future more seriously? I wonder if my immediate reply made him think I'm a cheap girl. If at least I'd waited until tomorrow morning, would that at least have shown him I was taking this seriously? Now that she'd already received the ring from George, Shannon kept fidgeting in embarrassment. I mean, if you already knew the ring was coming and you'd already George literally told her that he'd be giving her an engagement ring and asking her to marry him the next time he visited. So she was expecting it and probably had already thought of an answer. I think that's what my conclusion would be. If I was like, hey, if I had told someone I was in a relationship with, a serious relationship, and was like, hey, I gotta go on this trip. When I'm back, I'm gonna have an engagement ring and I'm gonna ask you to marry me. Like, if I told someone that, I was probably gonna be bringing that. I'd expect them to already have an answer or have an idea of an answer by the time I asked the question, especially if it was a few weeks. I should have done this. I should have done that. Oh, Shannon. As she did, she heard the sound of footsteps splashing through puddles. She immediately chased away the emotions welling up inside her. Genji-sama? Genji-sama? And Ken? Sorry, I have to go back soon. She grew stiff, thinking she'd surely be scolded for spending too much time in her secret lover's meeting with George. Gunham. Master told us to come to the study, saying it was urgent. Let's hurry. What in the world?
不吉な予感がするってさ。
He said he had a premonition of
自
misfortune.
分で儀式を起こしておいて都合のいい話さ。
How convenient for him, considering he's the one who started this ceremony.
大田に気取られぬよう裏から入る。
We'll enter from the back so Goda doesn't notice us.
足音に気をつけ。
Hide your footsteps.
はい、姉さん注意して。
Mason, take care.
姉さんは賑やかだか
They're
ら。
so noisy. Cannon was especially good at hiding his footsteps. Just like a cat, he was able to suddenly be there without noticing and leave in the same way. For example, even though he stepped in puddles, the sound he made was far smaller than that of the rain hitting them. Genji had abilities of that kind as well, or rather the servants called furniture were supposed to be like that. Like how desks and closets go unnoticed by members of the family, but Shannon's a little bit clumsy sometimes, yeah. These servants also held it as a great virtue to suddenly be there whenever they were needed. Compared to that, Shannon's footsteps still strongly asserted themselves. She's also trying to hide her footsteps, but compared to Kanon and Genji, well, you could say she was a little more boisterous. Eventually, they reach the back door. The three of them enter the mansion. Is there a second stairway, or are they going up the main stairway? Immediately, they thought they felt something. It was different from a sense of smell. It seemed to hit the depths of their noses. The hard-to-describe sensation you might call a sixth sense allowed them to perceive something that was different than usual.
源氏様。
Genji.
急ぐぞ。
Indeed. Let's hurry. The sensation made it feel as though a tense something was pressing in around them. Realizing that, the three of them dashed up the stairs, headed for Kinzo's study while still hiding their footsteps. Is Kinzo already dead? When they dashed up the stairs, the smell of that sweet poison particular to Kinzo's study reached their noses.
いかがなさい
What
ま
is
し
it,
た
Genji?
か
They
源氏
shouldn't
様
smell it immediately?
結界が。
The barrier is dead. I was gonna say, they shouldn't smell it immediately. I believe it's only as they approach the door to the room they typically see it. Or smell it. After hearing Kanon's words, she looked at the door to the study. A scorpion pattern was engraved on the doorknob, a powerful ward against magic, the final barrier which protected Kinzo himself. It had been broken. Of course, there was no change to the doorknob that the eye could see. However, those who could understand things people couldn't perceive were able to recognize a dramatic change had occurred.
親方様。親方様。
Master, key it, key it.
源氏でございます。
It's
こ
Genji.
こをお開けください。
Please open. Genji called in this way after knocking several times, but there was no answer from the study.
シャノン、背中を守れ。
Cannon, guard our
カノン
bags.、
室内を探れ。
Cannon, search inside the room.
はい。
Cannon put his ear against the door, searching for a presence inside the study. To protect the backs of the pair watching the door, Shannon faced the other way, ready for the unexpected.
親方様はいらっしゃられるはずで
The
す。
master must be in
で
here.
すが、静かすぎま
But
す。
he's too quiet.
ご無事だということか。
You mean to say he's safe?
いえ、
No.
静かがすぎます。
It is too quiet.
まさ
Too
か
Could it possibly be?
そんな。
親方様、
Master,
扉を失礼させていただきます。
excuse us about the door. Genji pulled a gold key out of his pocket. We know he has a key to this room. It's the only key to the study that existed other than the one Kinzo held. He stuck it in the keyhole and turned it heavily. At first glance, it seemed to prove it was a sturdy lock. However, now that the barrier had been destroyed, this door might as well have been left open from the viewpoint of anyone with magical power. The heavy sound just now meant the door had been opened even for humans.
失礼いたします。
Excuse me. The door looks the same as usual to me. I don't see the difference, but if you can see magic, I guess it's different. As Genji respectfully bowed his head and Cannon's sense of tension grew tighter, Shannon trembled. They entered the study and immediately discovered Kinzo's figure. He was sitting on the reception sofa so that his back faced them. Genji noticed the person sitting across from him and again bowed deeply. Cannon also noticed that person, but he didn't bow his head. He stood in front of Shannon and spread out his arms, blocking the way to her. Even without seeing that person's face, Shannon already had an idea of who it was. Well, we know who it is that Cannon wants to protect Shannon from. Hello, my lady.
お越しでございまし
Please
た。
come.
ベアトリーチェ様。
Beatrice-sama.
源氏か。
Genji is...
なかなかに早いな。
You came very quickly.
やはり家具は主の呼びかけに素早く答える方がよ
It's always best when furniture answers their master's
こ
call.
やつとは大違いだ。
Unlike this person.
ロノエ様もお越しでしたか。
So Runobe-sama has come as well. Genji directed his greeting towards the thin darkness behind and to the right of Beatrice, where there shouldn't have been anything. Even Kanon and Shannon would never have imagined that someone was there. However, the darkness responded immediately and praised Genji's eyesight.
相変わらず
As
さすが
usual,
です。
you don't disappoint.
だいぶの久しぶりになりますね
It's been some time.
それにしても老けましたね
You've grown old, haven't you?
それだけの弱いを重ねましたか
Have so many years truly passed you by?
充実した日々を過ごしております。
My days have been full and
ロノエ
satisfying.
様におかれましても、ますます
It appears
充実されておりますよ。
You've been living quite a full life yourself, Runobe-sama.
ええおかげさまです
Yes, thank you.
そして
Okay.
シャノンも久しぶりですね
Shannon, it's been a
君は
long time
随
since
分
I
と
saw you
美
as
しく
well.
なった
You've grown quite
そして
beautiful
随分と強くなったようですね
and quite strong.
良いことです
That's fortunate.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
姉さん。あいつ
Maison,
は一
who in
体
the world?
カノン君とは会うのは初めてになります
This will
ね
be our first meeting,
私は
Kanon-kun.
ベアトリーチェ様の家具頭を任されておりますロノベと申します
Ronobe have been trusted with the position of Beatrice-sama's head furniture.
源氏さんの古い馴染みですよ
I'm an old friend of
あ
Genji-san,
なたと同じに私も家具です
and I'm also furniture just
使え
like
る
you,
主は異なりますが
although we serve a different master. The tense color didn't disappear from Cannon's face in the slightest. Depending on the master furniture served, they might be kind, brutal, or anything else. If this person claimed to be furniture serving the hated Beatrice, he must be despicable as well. Obviously, he claims to be the 27th greatest demon on the planet.
わらは
On
も
the
うすっ
plains.
かり嫌われたものだ。
Seems I'm thoroughly
坊
despised.
主憎ければ今朝までなんとかとは。
As though you hate
よく言
anything
った
that has
ものよ。
everything to do with or anything that has everything to do with me. Yeah. Beatrice openly sneered at Cannon's hate-filled face. And then Cannon finally realized Beatrice and Kinzo were having a chess game across the reception table, but Kinzo hadn't even quivered. He was holding his head with both hands, eyes closed tight as he contemplated his next move. Or was he in anguish?
親方様、
Master.
わらわが金蔵に伝えたのは2
I told Kinzo two
良い
things.
知らせと悪い知らせだった。
The good news and the bad news.
良い知らせは儀式を終えずしてわらわと再会できる幸運を得たこ
The good news, he has the good fortune of being reunited with me before the
と。悪
ceremony
い
ends.
知らせは金蔵が儀式の一番最初の生贄に選ばれて
The
しまった
bad
こ
news
と
is Kinzo's been selected as the first sacrifice in the ceremony. It is good news, right? Sort of. Now, bear in mind, Kinzo lived through the first two roulettes. So, 2 sets of 6 people have died before he has died. Right? 2 sets of 6 people died before he died in the previous 2 routes. So, and in the second route, he made it through alive. In the first route, he was killed 5th? I don't remember. Let me check. When did he die in the first route? He died on the 4th Twilight. Gouge, head, and kill. Means there were 8 people killed before him. So his it's not the worst, honestly. He's lived through one. He died among the first 6. He's died among the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He died among the last 7, and he's dying among the first 6. Bear in mind that he has a 1 in 4 chance of living. It's between 1 in 30 and 1 in 4 chance of surviving. Okay, so he's dying something like 60. He's dying something like 70% of the time, in theory, right? If there's 18 people and like 13 die. There's 18 people and 13 die. So, if it was like, actually we can just do that. Like, 13 out of 18 is 72%. 72% of people die. So, 72% of the time you are dying. So, almost 3 in 4, right? And half of the time you're dying, A bit less than half the time you're dying in the first 6. Is what it is.
こればかりはわらわにもどうしようもない。
There's nothing I can do about it.
実に気まぐれにルーレットにて決めたのだから。
It truly was decided by the fickle roulette.
嘘つけ。
Liar.
もて遊んで殺しているくせに。
We know you're just a murderer who kills for fun.
よしてカノン君。
Stop it, Canon.
さて金蔵。
So, Kinzo,
そろそろ負けを認める気になったのか
isn't it about time you decide to accept your loss?
これにてわらわとの長きにわたる勝負は
With
決
this,
着だな。
our long contest is at an end, yes? At a glance, it was hard to make out the situation on that chaotic chessboard. However, judging by Kinzo's anguish and Beatrice's malicious confidence, it seemed to be over already.
是非もなし。
It's unavoidable.
これもまた一興か。
Perhaps even this could be amusing.
わらわもだ。
Oh, it is to me too.
そなたとの勝負に決着がつくことは万感の思いあれど、もはや恩衆を超え。
Resolving my contest with you may bring a flood of emotions, but it's already surpassed love and hate.
楽しかったぞ。
It was fun.
退屈しない数十年であった。
These past few decades certainly weren't boring. Beatrice advanced her queen and made her final move, and that decided it.
チェックメイト。
Checkmate.
これがわらわからそなたへの手向けだ。
My final tribute to you,
心置きなく
with no reservation.
眠れ。
Sleep. He's really hacking up a lung here. Kinzo suddenly stood up and laughed like an opera singer facing a full crowd and spreading his arms, as though he succeeded in a century-long plan. Damn, alright. That laugh spat crimson. Crimson flames poured out from inside him, spitting out even out of his mouth, ears, and nose, and all at once his body was wrapped in hellfire. But Kinzo kept laughing. The more he laughed, the more hellfire spewed from his entire body and began to char him. The flames became a brilliant light which dazzlingly shone on the various magic tools throughout the room, making their distorted shadows dance across the walls. The shadows looked like the dead in hell watching over Kinzo in ecstasy as he burned. And, for one who he made a contract with the witch, it was an extremely fitting end, in accordance with those terms. After laughing and howling in the roaring flames for some time, Kinzo flopped to the ground as though he was a puppet whose strings had been cut. The incredible blazing flames disappeared as though he'd been completely burned up, and afterwards nothing remained but a festering burnt corpse that one could hardly bear to look at. Rest in peace, Kinzo. It's only fitting he dies randomly, though. Horrible? I suppose so. But it's only fitting he dies if he's planning on killing 13 other people. If he's planning on killing 12 other people, I don't really feel too bad for this guy. You should talk.
ふさわしい死に方だと思っているくせに。
As if you didn't think that was a fitting way for him to die.
なぜお前が姿を現している？
Why have you shown yourself?
僕たちに何か用だとでも言うの
You
か？
have some business with us?
よしてカノン君。
Stop it, Canon.
ベアトリーチェ様を挑発してはダメ。
You mustn't provoke Beatrice-sama.
すっかり怯えさせてしまいましたね。
It would seem you have them absolutely terrified.
わらわはつくづく
I
カノン
imagine
と
I'll
は
never
仲
get
良く
along
な
with
れる
Canon.
ようだ。そう嫌いでもないというのにね。
It's not as though I dislike you particularly. Beatrice grinned. Canon violently averted his gaze, obviously unhappy. His reaction was so different than what he wanted to do that it made the witch and her butler laugh.
カノン、
Tano,
ベアトリーチェ様の御前であるぞ。
you stand in the presence of Beatrice-sama.
言葉遣いに気をつけなさい。
Carefully consider your matter of speech, please.
ああ、構わぬぞ、源氏。
I don't care, Genji.
好きに言わせてやれ。
Say what he pleases.
わらわは寛大である。
Gracious?
何が寛大だ？
How are you gracious?
わらわは死にゆく者には
I'm
いつだ
always
って
gracious.
寛大である。
I'm always gracious to those who are about to die. Kanon was taken aback by the creepy laughter. Beatrice wasn't here just to take Kinzo's life. The first twilight required 6 sacrifices. Kinzo alone wasn't nearly enough, and they just casually walked in here.
安心せよカノン
You're not
そ
Kanon.
なたらがここに訪れたから生贄に選ばれるのではない
It's not as though you're selected as sacrifices just because you came here.
生贄に選ばれているからこそここに呼ばれているんじゃないか
After all, you were called here because you'd been selected already.
なんだと
Their instincts were good enough to spot her meaning instantly. 6 sacrifices required for the first twilight. After Kinzo, how many more would you need to add up to 6? Well, in this mansion, the number 5 instantly made them think of the number of servants here.
それがお望みですか
Is that what you desire?
感謝せよ家具どもよ
Thank me, furniture.
そなたたちの苦難の日々は今宵ようやく終わりを迎え
Tonight, your days of suffering finally come
た
to
そ
an
れを
end.
告げに訪れたわらわに感謝せよ
Thank me for coming here to tell you this.
かしこまりました
Certainly.
それをお望みで
If
した
that is your desire.
源氏様
Genji agreed to the witch's heartless announcement with his usual demeanor without raising an eyebrow. Genji has his emotions fully under control.
親方様亡き後はベアトリーチェ様が我らの主
Now that the master is dead, Beatrice-sama is our master.
その求めに
Responding to our demands shall be our final
我ら
duty.
の最後の務めシャノ
Shano,
カノ
Kano,
今日までよく仕え
you've done well to serve until today.
たその労苦もこれにて
That hard work is now over.
源氏はさすがですね。
As expected of you, Genji.
同じ家具としてあなたを誇りに
As your
思います。
fellow furniture, I'm proud to have known you.
シャノ
Kano,
異論はないか
do you have any objections?
はい
No.
ジョージ様から指輪を贈られたそうだな
I've heard George gave you a ring.
それでもなお未練はないか
You still say you have no regrets?
はい
Yes.
家具の身に過ぎた幸福でした
That blessing was more than furniture deserved.
指輪を頂戴しただけで私の思いはすでに達せられており
Just
ます
receiving the ring has already satisfied my feelings. Shannon couldn't quite take as much of a philosophical view as Genji. There probably were regrets left in her heart. She probably wanted to spend more warm time with the person she cared for, George. But she released herself from that. She took a single deep breath and a blank expression rose to her
それ
face.
でよい
Very well.
シャノンがそこまでの落ち着きを得るとは少し驚きでした。
Surprises me to find you've gained such composure,
あなたも
Shannon.
家具として達観したようですね。
It seems you two have taken a philosophical view as furniture.
惚れた男と夜も共にできず少しは悔し涙をこぼさんのか
Won't you at least shed some bitter tears for not being able to spend a night with the man you love?
退屈な女よ
What a boring woman.
ベアトリーチェ様ごときにこの気持ちはわかりません
This feeling cannot be understood by the likes of you, Beatrice-sama.
私たちの命をご所望でしたらどうぞお受け取りくださ
If
い
you desire our lives, please accept
私
them.
たちは謹んで
We will
そのお
solemnly
務
carry
めを
out that
全うし
duty.
ます
So is it going to be all this? Actually, going to be all the servants and the master, leaving everyone who's not everyone else alive for the first round? That'll be interesting. Usually, it's like all the adults who are dead, and it's like servants who are intentionally being useless because they don't want to explain things. So this is kind of interesting, right? Like we might actually have people trying to solve the mystery instead of having all the people who might take action or just quibble amongst themselves be dead. And we'll have all the people who actively who are like incredibly apathetic to what's going on dead, right? Because if you haven't noticed, these people are all like, oh yeah, we might randomly be killed at any time. Let's not worry about it too much, for the most part, right? Like Genji just like, oh, he might die. Okay, we're dying. All right. Like they don't really care to try and keep themselves alive, whereas everyone else who's not dying here probably cares to keep themselves alive. Even Goda and Kumasawa probably care too. Excellently put.
ベアトリーチェ様の苦手なタイプのようで。
Just the type of person Beatrice can't handle.
最近こやつめはだいぶ達観しよった。
She's been taking such a far-sighted view of things lately.
どうも前回いじめすぎたよう
I must have tormented her too much last
だ。 そ
time.
れを言ったらバトラもか。
Speaking of which, didn't I do the same to Battler?
わらわはまだぬるいのか。
Am I soft?
それとも追い詰め方が下手なの
Just
か。
the way I cornered them
い
lacking.
ずれにせよ。
In any case, she's
面
no
白みの
fun.
ないやつよ。
Sorry. I guess you just lose this one,
しかし
Beto.
お前はまだわらわを楽しませてくれそうだよ
You'll
な。
still entertain me, right?
カノン。
Cannon? You gonna entertain us, Cannon?
カノン君。
Cannon. Compared to the two who'd taken a far-sighted approach, there was painful anguish still on Cannon's face. He was too young to accept his demise after being told of it by a suddenly appearing witch.
カノン。わらわは退屈を何より嫌い。
I hate boredom more than
そして
anything.
お前を除く二人が素直に死を受け入れるもので。
The fact that the other two obediently accepted their deaths isn't amusing at all.
だからそなたにはわらわの期待を裏切らないでもらいたい
I
もの
hope you
だ。
don't betray my expectations.
僕を慰み者にしようというの
Are you trying to make me your plaything? Cannon realized he was being provoked. However, no matter how furiously anger spurred him on, his opponent was a witch, and he was furniture. He hadn't really a chance of victory from the beginning, but the witch was expecting he'd struggle in vain and writhe around, even looking forward to it. Just thinking about that was frustrating enough to get his blood boiling. Was disappointing the witch by refusing to resist, like the other two, the only way he could strike back?
煉獄の七姉妹が長女ルシファー。
Eldest of the seven sisters of Purgatory,
い
Lucifer,
でよ。
arise.
傲慢のルシファー、ここに。
Lucifer of Pride here.
カノン。家具に魔女と戦えというのも酷な話よ。
It should be too cruel to force furniture to fight a witch.
そなたがいくら怒りに駆られようとも、賞賛のない戦いでは希望も持てまい。
No matter how much anger spurs you on, you'd have no hope in battle without a chance of success.
無論、勝ち目のない
It'd
戦
be
い
boring
で
for me
は
as well. Alright, so you're gonna fight
退屈
Lucifer.
というものならば、家具は
Let it be furniture against
家
furniture.
具同士で決
Resolve
着
it
を
with a
つけ
battle
ては
between
ど
you
う
two.
か。
Yeah, okay.
それならば、勝てる希望も持てるであろう。
That's enough to allow you some hope for victory, right?
恐れながらベアトリーチェ様。
Forgive me, Beatrice.
私がそのような出来損ないの家具に劣るようなことがありましょう
How could
か？
I be inferior to this good-for-nothing furniture?
こんな可愛い子に私が万一にも負けるようなことな
If
ど。
this cutie would have any chance against me.
我が家具、煉獄の七杭を打ち破ってみせよ。
Prove you can defeat my furniture, the seven stakes
見
of
事打
Purgatory.
ち破ってみせたなら。
If you win through,
そうだな。
we'll see.
13人の生贄を逃れることのできる5人を、そなたに自由に決めさせてやろう。
I will let you select the 5 who will escape becoming one of the 13 sacrifices. Ooh, that's a winning condition. All right. Note that she said the 7 stakes of Purgatory and not just Lucifer. Just gonna point that out right there. She's put him at a huge disadvantage. He doesn't have to just beat Lucifer. He has to beat all 7 of them. Or she could pull out another one if he beats Lucifer, right?
そなたの推薦する5人を、わらわは無条件にて黄金鏡に迎え入れる。
I'll welcome the 5 you recommend into the Golden Land without condition.
それならば
How's that? Canon understood he's being provoked. However, the witch's offer was very tempting. By this point, Canon couldn't care less about this evil ceremony the witch and the rest were trying to carry out. On the contrary, it was more important that he remain alive so he could be invited to the Golden Land and have his wish granted by Beatrice there.
そなたは家具は嫌だと泣いたな。
You cried. You said you had enough of being furniture, right?
そなたの望み、
I'll grant your
叶えて
desire.
やろうぞ。枕を濡らしてまで望んだ人間の体を与えてやろうぞ。
I'll give you that human body you wanted so much. You cried yourself to
どう
sleep.
だ？
What do you say?
そうすればジェシカとも結ばれるぞ。
This way you and Jessica could be together, right?
おお、
It's
ちょうどよい。黄金鏡へ招ける5人にジェシカとそなたを推薦すればよい。
You may recommend Jessica and yourself be invited to the Golden
自
Land.
分だけが幸せになることに抵抗があるならば。
And if you alone finding happiness isn't a satisfying
さらに
solution,
シャノンとその思
add
い人である
Shannon
ジョー
George,
ジ
the
を
one she
加えれ
loves.
ばよい。
Consider-
義理があるならばさらに源氏も加えればよい。
If you're worried about duty, add Genji.
おー、これで5
That's
人
five.
十分ではない
Isn't
か。
that enough, Canon?
これだけのご褒美があれば
With this much of a reward?
そなたはわらわを退屈させはしないよな。
Is he? Oh, it's nice to see you again, my dude. Cannon's being given the offer of a lifetime, or at least as Beatrice puts it. I mean, he does have to fight all 7 stakes. Good luck, dude. You won't let me get bored, will you? At least even 1 stake might be too much for him. We'll see. She's just playing with you.
耳を貸す必要はない
There's no need to listen. Yes, the Beatrice laugh.
僕は嫌だ。
I don't like it.
姉さんはそれでい
Are
い
you
の？
okay with this, Nason? Dude, just be like, alright. I'm gonna die anyway, right? Fuck it, let's go. Beatrice couldn't hide her evil smile at those words.
僕は嫌だ。
I don't like it.
幸せになりたい。
I wanna be
家具
happy.
なんてもう嫌だ
I've。had enough being furniture.
人間になって普通の恋がしたい。
I wanna become human and have normal
僕の
love.
姉さんのように海が青いってことを知りたいんだ。
I wanna know the ocean is blue like you.
若いですね。
Oh, yeah?
羨ましい。
I'm jealous.
だから若
That's
者
why I
は
like
好
him.
きなのだ。
Alright.
源氏、シャノンは下がれ。
Genji, Shannon, stay
カ
back.
ノン、ルシファーは前へ。
Cannon, Lucifer, forward.
仰せのままに
As you command. So Cannon's got to fight, and in his fight, he'll determine the 5 survivors. If he wins, he picks who survives, and the odds are he's probably gonna try and make Shannon survive, either Shannon or Jessica, possibly himself. Those are his priorities, I think. Shannon, Jessica himself, possibly in that order. Obviously, he gets 5 choices, so if he wins, he's not dying. That would probably be the biggest win, right? If he wins, he may not die. But she did say fight the 7 stakes and not fight Lucifer, so I'm a little bit nervous that even if he wins, he's going to lose, but we'll see how this goes. But unfortunately, we're going to have to find that out next time.